Chapter 1760. Given the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's abilities, and the nature of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, it was completely logical for him to control those emperors. Many of the emperors here were patriarchs who were nearing the end of their lifespans. If they could not break through, they would die from exhaustion of their lifespans. At this moment, the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra was placed before them, a cultivation technique that could increase their lifespans and break through their cultivation realms. Who could resist that temptation? Even someone as strong as Monk Daming chose to compromise after being trapped in the ancient coffin for 40,000 years and cultivated fiend techniques in order to break out of the coffin. However, there were still many things that Su Zimo could not understand. Logically speaking, given the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's talents and methods, he should have reached the peak of Tianhuang mainland a long time ago. Why did he have to wait for so many years and trigger calamities time after time in secret? What was the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's motive? Why did he save Su Zimo back then? The Bayan Demon Emperor had nothing to do with Su Zimo. Why did he help him back at the 1,000-year Blood Sea? How many secrets did Monk Daming know? What role did he play in all of this? Countless questions coiled around Su Zimo's mind. You were the one who destroyed the Bloodvine race. Su Zimo asked. That's right. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor nodded without hiding anything. Why? Su Zimo asked. Half of the Bloodvine race's bloodline flowed through the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's body. Why would he do something so cruel to the Bloodvine race? Because they deserved to be killed. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's eyes were filled with endless hatred. As though he recalled something, he said slowly with a dark expression, all of the Bloodvine race deserve to be killed. The same goes for all of you. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's gaze shifted to the old storyteller and the other emperors, saying coldly, back then, all of you immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects hunted me down. None of you were willing to help me. Today, I'm going to make all of you pay the price. I want all of you to submit to me. I want all of you to become my blood slaves. Tianhuang mainland is under my control. I want to become the ancient fiend emperor. I want to create my own race. I want Tianhuang to belong to the blood race. These words spread across the entire Tianhuang region, containing an unparalleled will. The myriad races fell silent. The various emperors were dumbfounded as they felt a bone-piercing chill. Su Zimo was also greatly shocked. Even he did not expect the blood-refining demon emperor to be so ambitious. Not only did he want to dominate planet Tianhuang, he even wanted to turn all the living beings on planet Tianhuang into his slaves and obey his orders. From now on, all the races on Tianhuang mainland, be it the human race, the demon race, or the primordial 9 races, would only have one title, the blood race. The Swanni Beast Dominator, the Constellation Immortal Dominator, and the blood-refining demon dominator were simply too terrifying. With a raise of his hand, he could kill all the rulers present. All the emperors had lost their composure. Now there were only 2 options before them. They could either die, or become the blood slaves of the blood-refining demon emperor. The storyteller took a deep breath of air, and tried his best to compose himself. He looked at the Swanni Beast Dominator, and the Constellation Immortal Dominator not far away. Blood Demon, it's fine if you want to dominate Tianhuang mainland. However, I'm afraid the 2 of them won't agree to turn all the races on planet Tianhuang into the blood race, right? The Swanni Beast Dominator was a demon, while the Constellation Immortal Dominator was a human. In the storyteller's opinion, even if the 2 of them were to join forces with the blood-refining demon emperor, it was unlikely that the latter would be able to take over the demon and human races. If he could sow discord between the 3 of them, there might be a chance for survival. They'll definitely agree. The blood-refining demon emperor laughed sinisterly. That's because they're merely clones that I created. The moment he said that, the faces of the blood-refining demon emperor, the Swanni Beast Dominator, and the Constellation Immortal Dominator changed, and revealed a terrifying blood-colored face. The 3 blood-colored faces opened their mouths and laughed maniacally. Ha 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 ha. Their laughter was ear-piercing and chilling. The emperors felt a deep sense of despair as they looked at the 3 identical blood-colored faces. Some of the emperors looked towards Su Zimo instinctively. Everyone knew that Wu Huang had created two true bodies right now, the taboo dragon phoenix and the creation Qinglian. Each of them were independent and invincible. However, to think that the blood-refining demon emperor before them was even more frightening. Apart from his true body, the blood-refining demon emperor had also created two independent clones that had grown to such a terrifying extent. There was no need for the other emperors. Just the two clones of the Swanee Beast Dominator and the Constellation Immortal Dominator were enough to sweep through Tianhuang mainland. Most of the cloning techniques in the cultivation world did not have an essence spirit and could not be cultivated individually. It was a coincidence that Su Zimo was able to condense his two true bodies. His cultivation path was almost impossible to replicate. However, the blood-refining demon emperor's cloning technique was definitely a top-tier cultivation technique. Night Spirit had once told Su Zimo that there were similar top-tier cloning techniques in the upper world. In fact, Su Zimo even suspected that the blood-refining demon emperor's cloning technique came from the upper world. More than 1,000 years ago, my fiend technique could have been cultivated to perfected level. The blood-refining demon emperor shifted his gaze towards Su Zimo and said hatefully, "Unfortunately, something happened more than 1,000 years ago. Otherwise, I would have left seclusion a long time ago, and Tianhuang mainland would already be under my control." More than 1,000 years ago, the emperors looked towards Su Zimo instinctively. Under normal circumstances, Araki Takashi should not have a high cultivation realm more than 1,000 years ago. How could he have crossed paths with the blood-refining demon emperor? More than 1,000 years ago, Long Ran frowned slightly in deep thought. "I've got it." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, and his eyes shone brightly as he said slowly, "Your cloning technique doesn't allow you to create two clones but three." Ah, the emperors were shocked. Two clones were already so terrifying, let alone three. Continue. The blood-refining demon emperor smiled gently and nodded at Su Zimo, indicating for him to continue. Su Zimo said, 30,000 years ago, you triggered the calamity of 10,000 demons, causing rivers of blood and corpses to be strewn everywhere. Your ultimate goal was to create this clone of the Swanee Demon Emperor. Similarly, the calamity of Constellation 20,000 years ago was to create this clone of the Constellation Immortal Emperor. And the calamity of Deqian 10,000 years ago was the third avatar that you wanted to condense. This third clone was at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. Long Ran shuddered and finally came to a realization. The blood-refining demon emperor's eyes flickered with admiration as he nodded. Very well, continue. Su Zimo smirked coldly. Unfortunately, just as your third clone was about to be completed, someone went to the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley more than 1,000 years ago. Initially, that person wanted to head to the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley for an utmost treasure of the Buddhist sections. However, he discovered the existence of your clone and destroyed it along the way. The crowd was confused. They did not understand who Su Zimo was referring to, as the person was able to destroy the blood-refining demon emperor's clone and severely injure him. The blood-refining demon emperor seemed to have recalled something upon hearing this. His expression changed rapidly. His eyes were filled with fear at first, followed by deep hatred. He followed Su Zimo's words and said coldly, "That's right. That person was your missed eye." Chapter 1761. The emperors finally understood when they heard that. More than 1,000 years ago, that peerless woman in blood-colored robes came to Tianhuang mainland and destroyed one of the blood refinement fiend emperor's clones. If not for that blood-robed woman, Tianhuang mainland would have fallen into the hands of the blood refinement fiend emperor a long time ago. At the same time, the emperor suddenly realized something. Now that the blood refinement fiend emperor chose to appear, it meant that his third clone was already complete. The blood refinement fiend emperor's fiend technique was already perfected. In that case, the reason why you incited the war of the 10,000 races is to cultivate your third clone. The storyteller said sternly. The blood refinement fiend emperor extended his finger and shook it gently. Cultivating my third clone is only one of my objectives, but that's not my true intention. The blood refinement fiend emperor glared at Su Zimo and said slowly, "My true objective is you." "Me?" Su Zimo raised his brow slightly. The blood refinement fiend emperor said, "I want to see your final trump card. The war of the 10,000 races is the best opportunity. I was once careless and committed a grave mistake that resulted in the destruction of one of my clones. I won't make the same mistake a second time. Since that woman thinks so highly of you, I'm worried that she might have left some sort of backup plan on you. Therefore, the real purpose of this convention is to force you to use your final trump card." The blood-refining demon emperor smiled proudly and said, "As expected, that woman has appeared." The storyteller's expression turned terrible. The terror of the blood refinement fiend emperor was not only due to the combat strength he displayed, but also because of his demon-like intelligence that was flawless. The Enigma Palace was adept at divination and prediction. As a storyteller, he was even more proficient in that aspect. However, the blood refinement fiend emperor displayed a scheming mind that was far above his. Right now, the crack in Tianhuang mainland had already been repaired, and no experts of the upper world could descend. There was no one who could suppress this fiend. Su Zimo's gaze shifted between the Bai and Demon Emperor and the star constellation Immortal Emperor before he suddenly said, "Your two clones are the Demon Emperor and Immortal Emperor, while you're the Fiend Emperor. If I'm not wrong, your third clone should be the Emperor of the Buddhist monasteries." "Smart." The blood-refining Demon Emperor couldn't help but exclaim and clap his hands. Su Zimo thought of a terrifying possibility. His heart sank. Staring at the blood-refining Demon Emperor, he asked solemnly, "Where is your third clone? Who is it exactly?" "It's me." Right at this moment, a voice sounded out from nearby. It was warm and peaceful like the sound of Buddha, and it struck directly at one's heart and possessed a magical ability to calm one's heart. All the emperors turned to look at the source of the voice. Su Zimo did not look. This was because he already knew who this person was just by hearing this voice. Monk Daming. Not far away, a monk in plain robes walked over slowly. His face was calm and his expression was gentle. The long hair that covered half of his face had already been shaved off. "Monk Daming, it's really you." Although the storyteller had long known about this, he still felt his heart tremble when he saw Monk Daming in person. The other rulers were even more shocked. Unexpectedly, the two monstrous geniuses from 40,000 years ago had both returned. Su Zimo turned to look at Monk Daming as well. Monk Daming nodded gently to Su Zimo and smiled. Suddenly, Su Zimo felt that the current Monk Daming seemed to be different. It was an indescribable feeling, and it wasn't just the difference in shaving his hair. "So, you're the third clone that he wanted to refine, the Buddha Emperor Daming." Su Zimo looked at Monk Daming and sighed gently. "I should have guessed it earlier." The blood-refining Demon Emperor looked at Monk Daming as well with an emotional expression and sighed. "After 40,000 years, we meet again." "That's right, we meet again." Monk Daming smiled gently. The two of them seemed like good friends who were greeting one another. Su Zimo could vaguely tell that there was something different. Monk Daming was different from the Bayan Demon Emperor and star constellation Immortal Emperor. He didn't seem to have been completely refined by the blood-refining Demon Emperor. Monk Daming still possessed his own will and thoughts. In other words, the Monk Daming before him could not be considered as the blood-refining Demon Emperor's third clone yet. However, the blood-refining Demon Emperor was neither anxious nor surprised. Everything was clearly within his control. "In this lifetime, you're the only one who's qualified to be my opponent, Monk Daming," the blood-refining Demon Emperor said. "I don't even take Araki Takashi seriously." In Tianhuang mainland, the blood-refining Demon Emperor was probably the only one who did not take Wu Huang seriously. He was the only one who would dare to say something as such and was qualified to do so. "I wouldn't dare." Monk Daming shook his head gently. "However, you've underestimated Wu Huang." Monk Daming took a deep look at Su Zimo before turning to the blood-refining Demon Emperor. "Wu Huang is stronger than you think. Fufu with just his two true bodies." The blood-refining Demon Emperor scoffed in disdain. Monk Daming shook his head without explaining. Su Zimo watched coldly from the sidelines and remained silent. He had a feeling that Monk Daming seemed to know something. Could Monk Daming have already found out about the true identity of Wu Dao's true body? The blood-refining demon emperor said. 40,000 years ago, during our fourth fight, I was severely injured. It was only because you were soft-hearted and persuaded me to convert to the Buddhist monasteries that I had the opportunity to retaliate. Actually, I lost that battle. The emperors were dumbfounded. The shocking battle between Monk Daming and the blood-refining demon emperor 40,000 years ago had always been a mystery, and there were no records of it even in Enigma Palace. The only ones who truly knew about the battle back then were the blood-refining demon emperor and Monk Daming. Although the blood-refining demon emperor only said a few words, he described the general situation of that battle. Su Zimo was shocked as well. Initially, he thought that Monk Daming was the one who suffered a crushing defeat in that battle. To think that there would be such details. Monk Daming shook his head. All's fair in war. I lost that battle, and there's nothing to explain. Both of them were prideful people. Although the blood-refining demon emperor had an unfair advantage in the past, he did not hide anything today and revealed everything. As for Monk Daming, he was even more calm and did not argue about the outcome of that battle. That was the pride of both of them. You did not kill me out of kindness back then. Since I won, I naturally won't kill you. Suddenly, the blood-refining demon emperor laughed. You wanted to persuade me to convert to the Buddhist monasteries, but I refused. Since you're so compassionate and benevolent, I'm going to make you fall into the fiend Dao. When he heard that, Su Zimo came to a realization. Everything about the battle 40,000 years ago was clear now. The reason why the blood-refining demon emperor did not kill Monk Daming was because they appreciated each other. More than that, it was because Monk Daming was initially victorious in that battle. However, he was soft-hearted and lost in the end. That was because Monk Daming persuaded the blood-refining demon emperor to convert to the Buddhist monasteries first. That was the reason why the blood-refining demon emperor trapped Monk Daming in that ancient coffin and carved the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra on the coffin lid. Since you want me to become a Buddhist, I'll turn you into a fiend. In reality, the blood-refining demon emperor was still fighting against Monk Daming with his actions. Chapter 1762. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor destroyed Monk Daming's body and trapped the latter's essence spirit in that ancient coffin. He even left behind a single Mingwang prayer beads on purpose. Back then, Su Zimo could not understand why he gathered that information. Why did the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor spend so much effort to leave behind such a setup? It was only when the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor explained the situation of the battle 40,000 years ago that Su Zimo understood that although the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor won, he was indignant. He still wanted to fight Monk Daming. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor left him with a slim chance of survival on purpose. If Monk Daming wanted to leave alive, he had to cultivate the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra for that chance. Monk Daming, the titular disciple of the Buddhist monasteries who was benevolent enough to save the masses, fell into the fiend Dao and cultivated fiend techniques, becoming the fiend that the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor wanted to suppress back then. The moment Monk Daming broke free, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor had already lost. Actually, the fight between the two of them did not stop at all, and lasted for a full 40,000 years. Su Zimo lamented and sighed. Even though Monk Daming had lost, Su Zimo was still filled with respect for the latter. 40,000 years of struggle. In that narrow and cramped ancient coffin, there was no light, no sound, no life, nothing. Only a lonely primordial spirit. Su Zimo could not imagine how Monk Daming managed to survive for the past 40,000 years. Su Zimo believed that his will was strong, and his Dao heart was firm and unshakable. However, if he was in Monk Daming's shoes, he believed that he would not be able to survive for 40,000 years. You're truly incredible. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor looked at Monk Daming and lamented as well. I was truly worried that you would continue wasting your time like that all those years, until your essence spirit withered and died in that ancient coffin. Finally, Fufu, you managed to escape. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor could not help but laugh, not concealing the joy and excitement in his heart. The fact that you managed to escape means that I won. Furthermore, this time round, you'll never have a chance of turning the tables. Indeed, I've lost the battle that lasted 40,000 years. Monk Daming looked at his hands. All these years, in order to raise my strength and cultivate fiend techniques, my hands were stained with endless blood. I'm no longer worthy of the title of Daming. Su Zimo sighed internally. That was the reason why Monk Daming gave him the complete set of the Mingwang prayer beads, after he knew who he was. Although Monk Daming managed to escape, he felt guilty, and was too ashamed to face his old friend. He even grew his long hair to cover his face. Over the years, he must have been in's heart had Daming the heavens. After Daming, I lost in the battle you Daming me. You Daming emperors however, this is Daming fiend is not lost Daming die. Daming, I fiend, is Daming that's is Daming me. Daming, the blood-refining demon emperor couldn't help but laugh and say, Big Ming, don't have any extravagant hopes. Daming day you. Daming Zimas, die Daming die. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. There seemed to be a deeper meaning behind the blood refinement fiend emperor's words. Why would he never be able to defeat the blood refinement fiend emperor, even if he cultivated the blood refinement fiend sutra? The blood refinement fiend emperor continued. Daming, I've just now said that you're the only one worthy of being my opponent in this lifetime. If possible, I wouldn't want to refine you into my third clone either. As long as you choose to submit to me today, I'm willing to share the world with you. From this day forth, Daming will be on par with me in Tianhuang mainland. Your status will be above all the emperors, and you'll rule over Tianhuang mainland with the respect of all races. The emperors were shocked. Everyone could tell how highly the blood refinement fiend emperor thought of Monk Daming. In fact, the blood refinement fiend emperor could even give up on refining a third clone to give Monk Daming a chance to be on par with him. After Monk Daming appeared, there was no one else in the eyes of the blood refinement fiend emperor. To be precise, in the eyes of the blood refinement fiend emperor, everyone else, including Su Zimo, were merely his blood slaves. Monk Daming was the only one who was qualified to be on par with him. Suddenly, a terrifying guess came to Su Zimo's mind as he asked, Blood refinement fiend, why did you save me twice in the 1,000-year Blood Sea and East Sea back then? Within the 1,000-year Blood Sea, the blood refinement fiend emperor's clone, the Bayan demon emperor, appeared and saved Su Zimo with blood-colored bubbles one after another. Above East Sea, the blood refinement fiend emperor transformed into the smoky guest and saved Su Zimo from the hands of the patriarch of the Golden Crow race. Fufu, the blood refinement fiend emperor chuckled. Araki Takashi, haven't you realized it yet? Even you're merely my blood slave. Among the blood slaves, you're the most outstanding one with the greatest potential. How can I bear for you to die? The emperors were shocked and turned to look. Even Wu Huang was merely the blood refinement fiend emperor's blood slave. This news was way too shocking. Monk Daming turned to Su Zimo and said, The reason why the blood refinement fiend sutra is powerful is not only because it can refine bloodlines infinitely. More importantly, those who cultivate this fiend technique will find it difficult to break free from the control of the blood refinement fiend. Su Zimo had only cultivated a small portion of the blood refinement fiend sutra on the ancient coffin. Therefore, he could not see through the essence of this fiend technique. However, after releasing this fiend technique a few times, he could vaguely sense that there was some sort of great horror hidden behind this fiend technique. Therefore, after the battle of the 1,000-year Blood Sea, no matter what dangers he encountered, he did not release the blood refinement fiend sutra. Su Zimo said in a deep voice. In that case, the deeper one cultivates this fiend technique, the harder it is to break free. That's right. Monk Daming nodded. Therefore, the reason why I wanted to kill you on 6-Star Mountain back then was because you cultivated this fiend technique and were already considered his blood slave. I wanted to kill you because I didn't want you to become stronger. However, until the end, you did not release your fiend technique, and neither did I. Monk Daming continued. The blood refinement fiend sutra that the two of us cultivated was left behind by the blood refinement fiend sutra and has the smallest flaws. However, the fiend techniques that the blood refinement fiend sutra left behind the greatest flaws. Therefore, it's difficult for others to affect us if we release our fiend techniques as well. Su Zimo was enlightened. Suddenly he understood many things. It was no wonder why Monk Daming stopped Heavenly Secrets and Purple Flame in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley when they wanted to refine their bloodlines. Fan's blood sacrifice could not affect Monk Daming at all. On the contrary, Monk Daming could refine it with ease. To put it simply, although they were both cultivating the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, the two of them cultivated a more complete and high-level fiend technique, whereas the others were much weaker. That's right. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor looked at Su Zimo and said proudly, "Araki Takashi, from now on, you'll be considered the highest-level blood slave under my command. You'll only be below Daming and me." The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's words were like a great gift to Su Zimo. Chapter 1763. Blood Demon, you're way too confident. Su Zimo sneered. "I've only cultivated a few sections of your Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and released it a couple of times. Do you think that you can control me with that? Furthermore, even if you can control me, you'll only be able to control my Dragon Phoenix true body at most. This Qinglian true body of mine was created by Creation Qinglian and has nothing to do with the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra." Su Zimo had not released the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra ever since he reconstructed Qinglian's true body. The one that had truly released the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra was his original body, which was the current Dragon Phoenix true body. Fufufu. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor grinned and shook his head. "Araki Takashi, you're way too naive. Do you think that the fiend technique I created is only related to one's body and bloodline? As long as you cultivate it, this fiend technique will haunt you forever. That includes your essence spirit." Before his sentence was finished, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's eyes lit up with a sinister blood glint. "Ugh!" Su Zimo grunted, and his expression changed starkly. One after another, blood-colored chains appeared on the Dragon Phoenix true body and coiled around it tightly. No matter how hard the Dragon Phoenix true body channeled its blood chi, it could not conjure its taboo form and break free from the scarlet chains. In the consciousness of Qinglian's true body, blood-red threads appeared on the black-haired essence spirit on the Creation Lotus platform as well. The blood-colored threads exuded an extremely evil power and were incomparably sharp as they coiled around Qinglian's essence spirit tightly. Su Zimo's expression turned terrible. To think that the fiend technique would be this terrifying. Even though his essence spirit had split into two and cultivated two true bodies, he could not break free from the influence of the fiend technique. Although Qinglian's true body was reconstructed and was flawless and had nothing to do with the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, her essence spirit was already tainted by the evil power when she cultivated and released the fiend technique. The blood-refining demon emperor looked around at the other sovereigns and said proudly, "Why don't you choose to submit? Even your Wu Huang is now only my blood thrall." Many rulers' faces turned pale, and they looked desperate. Even the old storyteller's eyes dimmed. Their only hope was Wu Huang. However, now that Wu Huang was under the control of the Blood Refinement Demon Emperor, no one in Tianhuang mainland could match the Blood Refinement Demon Emperor. "Are you still struggling?" Looking at the two real bodies of Su Zimo, the blood-refining demon emperor said coldly, "Kneel." Blood-red light shone from the blood-refining demon emperor's eyes. The blood-red chains on the Dragon Phoenix true body suddenly tightened. This blood-red chain emitted an extremely strange power. It actually started to absorb the bloodline of the Dragon Phoenix true body and refined it. A powerful will descended into the sea of consciousness of the Dragon Phoenix true body. Under the envelopment of this will, the Dragon Phoenix primordial spirit felt immense pressure, and its consciousness became somewhat blurry. Roar! The Dragon Phoenix true body growled deeply. Scarlet dragon scales appeared on his body one after another, and burned with raging flames, fighting and devouring the blood-red chains. At the same time, the essence spirit of the Dragon Phoenix true body was also fighting against the will and refused to back down. Qinglian's true body was facing the same situation as well. An extremely powerful will wanted to suppress and control Qinglian's essence spirit. It wanted to suppress Qinglian's essence spirit. A series of green lights burst forth from the 72 lotus holes of the creation lotus platform and revolved around Qinglian's essence spirit, fighting against the will. A voice seemed to have sounded in the hearts of the two true bodies, telling them to give up resisting. Su Zimo was unmoved and tried his best to maintain his consciousness to fight against the power. Although the two true bodies did not submit to the blood refinement demon emperor's will, they shuddered and endured immense pain. The blood refinement demon emperor frowned, and his expression darkened. He had not expected Su Zimo's will to be so strong that it could enter a stalemate with him. When Monk Daming saw that, he smiled gently. Blood demon, you've miscalculated. Even if you schemed for 40,000 years and used all your tricks, you didn't expect that Wu Huang would be able to enter a stalemate with you despite being not deeply fiendish. His Tao heart is strong and his will is resolute. Humph. The blood refinement demon emperor sneered indifferently. That's nothing at all. The current situation is still within my control. Although I don't have complete control over Araki Takashi, his two true bodies can't even fend for themselves right now, and have no combat strength at all. I can destroy them at any moment. Everyone could tell that the blood refinement demon emperor was not lying. Right now, Su Zimo's two true bodies were controlled by the blood refinement fiend sutra. Although they did not fall completely, it was extremely difficult for them to resist. Even without the blood refinement demon emperor, any emperor would be able to kill Su Zimo. The blood refinement demon emperor looked at Monk Daming and continued. It's not impossible for me to control Araki Takashi completely. As long as I refine you and perfect my demonic art, I'll be able to control him easily. Monk Daming shook his head. You're wrong again. This is the second time you've miscalculated. I've said that the battle between us isn't over yet. The reason why I've returned is to settle it with you. The blood refinement demon emperor sneered. Daming, you're different from Araki Takashi. You've been deeply fiendish for the past few years. You should know very well how many bloodlines you've refined in the War of the 10,000 Tribes. If I wanted to refine you into my third clone, you wouldn't be able to resist at all. Monk Daming said. Blood demon, you know that I'm cultivating a demonic art. Why did you come out of the ancient coffin? The blood refinement demon emperor frowned slightly. I didn't do it to survive, Monk Daming continued. The reason why I cultivated this demonic art and broke free is because I want to find a way to dispel your demonic art. Nothing is absolute. Everything in the world has a counter to each other. Even if it's the most perfect cultivation technique, there will still be flaws. If you can create the blood refinement fiend sutra, I'll definitely be able to dispel it as well. You! The blood refinement demon emperor's heart skipped a beat as he widened his eyes and channeled his demonic art in an attempt to control Monk Daming. Suddenly, streams of blood chi burst forth from Monk Daming's body. It was as though an evil fiend had awakened within Monk Daming's body. Suddenly, Monk Daming cracked his fingers and smiled with a benevolent gaze. A sacred and flawless halo appeared behind his head. A powerful Buddhist will descended, directly suppressing the fiendish devil within his body. The blood refinement demon emperor's expression darkened completely. He had failed. Monk Daming was completely out of his control. Although Su Zimo was resisting the control of the blood refinement fiend sutra and could not move at all, he could still sense what was going on outside. He finally understood why Monk Daming wanted to collect so many cultivation techniques and secret skills over the years. In fact, Monk Daming did not hesitate to take the risk and enter Enigma Palace to steal the Mystic Heaven record. That was because he wanted to find a way to dispel the blood refinement fiend sutra from those cultivation techniques. But now he had succeeded. That was the reason why he shaved his hair and became Monk Daming once more. Monk Daming did not lose. Chapter 1764. Fufufu. The blood refinement fiend emperor's expression changed, and he suddenly burst into laughter. Initially, it was merely a chuckle, but towards the end he reared his head in laughter. Ha 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 ha. His laughter was loud and filled with a strong will that was deafening, spreading in all directions. Under normal circumstances, it would be a huge blow for the blood refinement fiend emperor to lose control of his third clone that he had painstakingly nurtured. Furthermore, This also meant that the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor had lost to Monk Daming this time round. This was even more unacceptable for the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. However, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor laughed instead of getting angry, as though he did not care about everything. Blood chi spread from his body with a torrential aura as he declared, "Daming, it doesn't matter even if I've miscalculated twice. I'll say the same thing again. The situation is still within my control. Although you've deciphered the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, you haven't defeated me. As long as I suppress you, I can still assimilate you completely with my fiend technique. At the end of the day, you won't be able to defeat me." Monk Daming shook his head gently. "I'm afraid it won't be that easy to suppress me," the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor declared proudly. "I know your strength best. Even if you've absorbed endless bloodlines during the War of the 10,000 Races, a single clone of mine is enough to suppress you." Monk Daming smiled. "Blood Refinement Fiend, this is your third miscalculation." The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor narrowed his gaze slightly. Monk Daming remarked indifferently, "You've missed out on someone." "Impossible," the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor declared resolutely. "I've planned for 40,000 years, and all the paragons and monster incarnates of Tianhuang mainland are within my sights without exception." Monk Daming turned around and said to the void, "I can only deal with one of your clones. I'll leave the true body and the other clone to you." It was clear that Monk Daming was talking to someone. However, there was nothing in that space. It was completely empty. The many emperors could not see anyone either. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor narrowed his eyes, and a scarlet glint danced in his eyes. He released his spirit consciousness and enveloped the void, sealing it completely. "There's no one?" A look of confusion flashed through the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's eyes. Based on his understanding of Monk Daming would never do such a thing. However, was there anyone in Tianhuang mainland who could hide from his senses? At this moment, there was a sudden commotion in the void. The entire space was like a lake, and there were traces of ripples. From the ripples in the void, a person slowly walked out. This person was dressed in a purple robe with a shawl. His face was shrouded in a layer of mist blurring his features. In an instant, countless gazes were focused on the purple-robed man. Who is this person? What's his cultivation? Many rulers were confused. Back then, Wu Dao's original body had only snatched the cultivation techniques and secret skills of Heavenly Dipper Sect, Malevolent Earth Sect, and Penglai Island during the convention. None of the rulers present had seen him before. The thing that surprised the emperors the most was that not only were they unable to see through the mist on this person's face, they were even unable to detect this person's cultivation. Everything about this person was a mystery. The old storyteller secretly pinched his fingers to deduce. It wasn't long before the old man's entire body shook. He could not deduce at all. Back then, even when he was trying to deduce Su Zimo, he could still make out some clues. However, he gave up halfway. As for this person, he could not find any clues at all. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's expression changed as well. That was because even he could not tell the background and cultivation of this purple-robed man. However, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor was not worried. The world of Tianhuang mainland was already perfected, and the laws of heaven and earth were perfected. There was no way this person was an expert of the upper world. Since this person was from the lower world, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor believed that he could suppress the other party, given his capabilities. "Who are you?" The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor narrowed his eyes and asked coldly. Before Wu Dao's original body replied, Monk Daming smiled gently. "Blood Refinement Fiend, just now, I've said that you've underestimated Wu Huang." "Araki Takashi?" The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor frowned. What does this person have to do with Araki Takashi? On the other hand, Wu Dao's original body was surprised as he glanced sideways at Monk Daming and asked with a smile, "When did you find out?" "In the ancient battlefield," Monk Daming replied. "Back then, after we came out of seclusion as emperors and killed Du and the Corpse Emperor, I mentioned your existence to your Qinglian's true body. Although your Qinglian's true body was surprised, she appeared too calm and wasn't curious at all. At that time, I already guessed it. Wu Dao's original body could not help but exclaim internally. He had to admit that Monk Daming was indeed the smartest and most talented cultivator he had ever met. The fact that he could decipher the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra alone was enough to prove his strength, and could be considered as a peerless talent. Since Monk Daming had pointed it out, there was no need for Wu Dao's original body to hide anymore. The fog on his face dissipated gradually, revealing his true appearance. Initially, the emperors were confused when they heard the conversation between Wu Dao's original body and Monk Daming. However, when Wu Dao's original body revealed his true appearance, it caused an uproar. How is that possible? Wu Huang. The emperors widened their eyes in disbelief. The old storyteller's mouth was slightly agape, as well as his gaze darted between the Dragon Phoenix's true body, Qinglian's true body, and Wu Dao's original body. Could this be Wu Huang's third true body? The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor was indeed a formidable figure of his generation. After a momentary shock, he regained his composure and glared at Wu Dao's original body coldly. Interesting. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor smiled. To think that your clone would have hidden so deeply that even I wouldn't be able to detect it. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor channeled his fiend technique secretly, and his eyes shone with a scarlet light as he tried to control Wu Dao's original body. There's no need to try. Wu Dao's original body saw through the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's intentions and said indifferently, "Your fiend technique is useless against me." The birth of Wu Dao's original body was an anomaly to begin with. This true body was condensed from Wu Dao's fruit and contained the will of Wu Dao, the faith of all living beings, and many other powers. However, there was no trace of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra on it at all. Good. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor nodded repeatedly. To think that there would still be a variable after my 40,000 years of planning. However, it doesn't matter. Let's see if there's anyone in Tianhuang mainland who can defend against my massacre. Kill. Blood chi surged from the bodies of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, the Taoan Demon Emperor, and the Constellation Immortal Emperor. Behind the three of them, a menacing and evil blood face appeared and roared in all directions. A massive battle broke out instantly. The old storyteller, Long Ran, and the others found the group of blood slaves that had submitted to the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor right away. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor and his two clones could only be left to Wu Dao's original body and Monk Daming. Even the Night Spirit could not interfere in a battle of that level. Book Abode's reading website. Chapter 1765. In a flash, Monk Daming charged toward Star Constellation Immortal Emperor. Given his combat strength, it was already his limit to hold back a single clone of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. He had cultivated for way too short a period of time. It had only been slightly more than 1,000 years since he was reborn and came out of seclusion. Both of them used the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra as their foundations. No matter how talented he was, it was difficult for him to make up for the difference of 10,000 years. Among the two clones of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, Star Constellation Immortal Emperor had cultivated for the shorter period of time. Therefore, Monk Daming directly sought out Star Constellation Immortal Emperor. Wu Dao's true body strode towards the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. Although he seemed slow, he arrived before the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor in the blink of an eye. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor glared at Wu Dao's true body with a cold expression. Both of them attacked at the same time. Wu Dao's true body gripped his fists and his blood chi surged, as though a gigantic furnace was burning furiously with immense power. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's body was filled with blood chi, and his entire body was drenched in blood. He threw out a punch as well. That punch seemed like a sea of blood that flooded towards Wu Dao's true body. Boom! The two fists collided with a deafening bang. Heaven and earth shook. At that moment, the entire battlefield seemed to have come to a standstill, and time seemed to have stopped. This was not only a clash of strength between the two of them, but also a clash between water and fire. Wu Dao's true body's punch was like a volcanic eruption that released a terrifying scorching power. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's punch was like a tidal wave that created waves of blood. The two people's fists collided head-on, and they were actually evenly matched. There was no clear winner. Neither of them took a single step back. In truth, the blood refinement fiend emperor's combat strength far surpassed both his clones and the knowledge of ordinary cultivators. His strength could not be measured by the number of supreme divine powers he had comprehended. That was because of the existence of the blood refinement fiend sutra. The blood refinement fiend emperor could refine his bloodline endlessly and refine his flesh and essence spirit. In other words, there was almost no limit to the blood refinement fiend emperor's strength. After 40,000 years of cultivation, it was not hard to imagine what kind of level the blood-refining demon emperor had reached. It was not an exaggeration to say that even if the storyteller Old Man and the other emperors unleashed their ultimate techniques, the blood-refining demon emperor would still be able to shatter them into pieces with a casual slap. On the other hand, the combat strength of Wu Dao's main body couldn't be judged by common sense as well. Wu Dao's true body had refined hundreds of scriptures and tens of thousands of arts. There was no limit to his strength. What was more, Wu Dao himself had created a new cultivation method, the Fate Will Secret Realm. It was safe to say that Wu Dao's original body and the blood-refining demon emperor had both reached the peak of the strength of the lower worlds and were infinitely close to the Xian deities in the upper worlds. The biggest difference between them and the Xian immortals of the upper realm was that they did not undergo any tribulations and did not have the vital qi of heaven and earth in their bodies. The clash of the two fists truly shocked the blood-refining demon emperor. He truly had not expected that there would be someone in Tianhuang mainland who could defend against his power. What was even more frightening was that he could sense an extremely terrifying aura emanating from Wu Dao's original body that seemed as though it wanted to incinerate and refine everything. In fact, he might even be incinerated by it. The blood-refining demon emperor felt threatened. However, he did not allow Bai and demon emperor's clone to join forces with him to fight Wu Dao's original body. That was because the blood-refining demon emperor realized that even if he joined forces with Bai and demon emperor, they might not be able to suppress Wu Dao's original body. However, if Bai and demon emperor and star constellation immortal emperor were to join forces, they could suppress Monk Daming within a short period of time. That way, he would be able to refine a third clone after subduing Monk Daming. At that time, his fiend technique would be at greater mastery, and his combat strength would increase exponentially. He would definitely be able to kill Wu Dao's original body. The blood-refining demon emperor's heart skipped a beat. Bai and demon emperor, who was initially charging towards Wu Dao's original body, suddenly turned around and charged towards Monk Daming. Humph! Although Wu Dao's original body had his back facing Bai and demon emperor, he sensed what was happening and retreated explosively. Instantly, he arrived behind Bai and demon emperor and grabbed towards the latter's gigantic head. Sensing danger, Bai and demon emperor dodged hurriedly. However, Wu Dao's original body was extremely fast and descended instantly, slapping Bai and demon emperor on the shoulder. Exclamation point! Wu Dao's original body channeled strength through his fingers and pierced Bai and demon emperor's flesh like a sharp blade, causing a flash of blood. Wu Dao's original body raised his arm and grabbed Bai and demon emperor's shoulder, smashing him down viciously. Boom! There was a deafening bang that shook the world. Bai and demon emperor's gigantic body, that was thousands of feet tall, was flung heavily onto the ground by Wu Dao's original body, creating a gigantic pit. It was an extremely shocking scene. It was as though a tiny mayfly had uprooted a towering ancient tree and smashed it heavily onto the ground. It was an absolute suppression in terms of strength. Bai and demon emperor was in excruciating pain as his tendons and bones felt like they were about to rupture. In the blink of an eye, his body that was thousands of feet tall reverted to the normal height of a human. Although Bai and demon emperor's body was massive and had a terrifying aura with a ferocious burst of strength, he was too clumsy and could not dodge at all against Wu Dao's original body. Hence, Bai and demon emperor was forced to shrink his body. Right then, the blood refinement fiend emperor charged forward once more and swung the thin fishing rod in his hands towards Wu Dao's original body. Swash! A white light that was incomparably dazzling shot through the night sky like a bolt of lightning. The outer skin of the fishing rod shattered silently, revealing a cold sharpness within. That was no fishing rod. It was a sharp and thin knife. At the same time, on another battlefield, Monk Daming and star constellation Immortal Emperor exchanged blows continuously in melee combat. However, Monk Daming was forced to retreat repeatedly as his organs and blood qi churned. He was completely disadvantaged. Monk Daming had a strong physique and terrifying blood qi. In the past, he could even fight against Wu Dao's original body in melee combat. But now, he was completely suppressed by star constellation Immortal Emperor. Star constellation Immortal Emperor had cultivated for way too long, at least 20,000 years more than Monk Daming. In terms of melee combat techniques, star constellation Immortal Emperor was not disadvantaged at all. If this continued, Monk Daming would definitely be beaten to death by star constellation Immortal Emperor in melee combat. Monk Daming retreated continuously. Suddenly, he bit his finger, and the blood of an emperor seeped out from his fingertip. Monk Daming channeled his essence spirit, and his eyes shone brightly with a chilling killing intent. Waving his blood-stained finger, he wrote a blood-colored word rapidly in front of him. Kill. It was the supreme divine power of the ancient human emperor, the kill word art. A terrifying and tyrannical power of divine ability filled the air. The word kill was formed instantly and contained an extremely terrifying killing power. It charged towards star constellation Immortal Emperor in an attempt to kill her. Fufu. Star constellation Immortal Emperor sneered and channeled her essence spirit as well. Extending her arm, she pointed at the incoming kill word art and shouted, Star Transposition. It was also a supreme divine power, Star Transposition. After the divine power was released, a strange divine power shrouded the kill word art. Suddenly, star constellation Immortal Emperor turned around and pointed at Wu Dao's original body on the other side of the battlefield. The kill word art changed its direction and charged towards Wu Dao's original body. Chapter 1766. Stellar Transposition was a peerless divine ability. Although it did not have a strong offensive power, it was not to be underestimated. The kill symbol art was one of the most terrifying divine abilities among the peerless divine abilities. However, its target was changed by stellar transposition. The kill symbol art did not pose any threat to star constellation Immortal Emperor. Instead, it targeted Wu Dao's true body. At the same time, the saber in the hands of the blood refinement demon emperor turned into a white beam of light and descended. The shrunken demon emperor C emitted a demonic aura and a bloody aura as he lunged towards Wu Dao's true body as well. The situation was changing rapidly. At that instant, it was equivalent to the blood refinement demon emperor and his two clones joining forces to launch a ferocious attack against Wu Dao's true body. 1 against 3. Wu Dao's true body took a deep breath, and his eyes shone brightly. Without even looking at the kill symbol art that was approaching from behind, he threw a punch in reverse. At the same time, he breathed out a white mist. The white mist emitted an extremely sharp intent and murderous intent. It condensed into two divine beasts, a divine dragon and a soaring serpent, in midair and charged towards Demon Emperor C. The white mist that Wu Dao's true body breathed out was no ordinary sword qi. It was the sword qi condensed from the earth-slaying sword art. At the same time, Wu Dao's true body extended his fist and punched towards the saber. Clang! The sound of metal clashing could be heard when the saber landed on the fist of Wu Dao's true body. The fist of Wu Dao's true body was undamaged. The blood refinement demon emperor's heart skipped a beat. The flesh of Wu Dao's true body was tempered by the martial spirit fire all year round. It was like a gigantic furnace that refined thousands of arts and was indestructible. The flesh of Wu Dao's true body could suppress all Dharma treasures in Tianhuang mainland. Even the human emperor's seal could not hurt Wu Dao's true body in the slightest. Before the blood refinement demon emperor could withdraw his saber, Wu Dao's true body suddenly changed his move. His entire arm turned soft and powerless as it wrapped around the saber like the trunk of an elephant. Piak! Wu Dao's true body's arm curled, shook and pulled. The blood-refining demon emperor shuddered. He felt a terrifying twisting, vibrating, and tearing power erupt from his palm through the long saber in his hand. The area between the blood-refining demon emperor's thumb and index finger was instantly torn apart. Blood gushed out, and the saber flew out of his hand. This long saber of the blood-refining demon emperor was indeed an excellent magic treasure. If it were an ordinary magical treasure, it would have been directly smashed into a pile of scrap metal by Wu Dao's real body. The long saber fell. On the other side, the kill symbol art collided with Wu Dao's fist. The incomparably sharp power of the divine ability kept tearing at the arms and fists of Wu Dao's true body, trying to tear his flesh to shreds. However, Wu Dao himself remained unmoved. His blood chi burst forth and shattered the kill symbol art with a single punch, dispersing it into nothingness. Demon Emperor Bai released his innate divine ability and tore apart the divine dragons and soaring serpents conjured by the earth-slaying sword chi, before glaring at Wu Dao's true body with murderous intent. Fighting 1 against 3, Wu Dao's true body neutralized all 3 of their attacks. Of course, Wu Dao's true body did not dare to be careless either. In fact, he did not dare to reveal his trump card easily. That was because the blood-refining demon emperor must have a powerful backup plan. On the other side, Monk Daming released his supreme divine ability once more and fought against Star Constellation Immortal Emperor. Kill! The blood-refining demon emperor charged towards Wu Dao's true body with a dense blood chi and said coldly, "I refuse to believe that my 40,000 years of cultivation can't compare to a late-stage cultivator like you who's more than 1,000 years old." Demon Emperor Bai attacked at the same time. Wu Dao's true body was fearless. With a bright gaze, he strode towards the 2 emperors and punched. Boom! It was as though a volcano had erupted within Wu Dao's true body. That punch was as violent as fire and released a suffocating power. Bang! 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 The blood-refining demon emperor and demon emperor Bai exchanged blows with Wu Dao's true body consecutively. In melee combat, it was a clash of strength without any techniques. The consecutive head-on collisions caused power to splatter everywhere, and blood chi to be devoured. Wu Dao's true body stood in midair with his black hair fluttering. His gaze was like a torch, and he was not disadvantaged at all despite fighting 2 against 1. On the battlefield between the 3 of them, the voids were torn apart and riddled with holes. The 3 of them were almost out of the world of Tianhuang mainland, and were in the turbulence of the void. Their figures were faintly discernible through the shattered voids. It had to be said that the blood-refining demon emperor's 40,000 years of cultivation was truly terrifying. After refining his bloodline continuously for so many years, the blood-refining demon emperor's physique and blood chi had already reached an unimaginable level. The power released by a casual punch from Wu Dao's true body was enough to shatter a dermic treasure. However, the blood-refining demon emperor was able to take on Wu Dao's true body in melee combat. The 2 of them attacked faster and more ferociously. In the blink of an eye, they had already exchanged more than 1,000 blows. This was not only a clash of strength, but also a clash of blood chi and stamina. One had to know that the 2 of them had consumed a great deal of energy from the clash of their attacks. The blood-refining demon emperor had 40,000 years of cultivation as his foundation, and naturally had a turbulent bloodline, long aura and powerful stamina. As for Wu Dao's true body, he cultivated the Wu Dao technique and tempered his body year in and year out. With the refinement of his martial spirit, his body was like a gigantic furnace with blazing flames that burned increasingly fiercely. The 2 of them were able to remain unscathed even after exchanging 1,000 blows. As for Demon Emperor Bai at the side, he merely received the occasional punch from Wu Dao's true body. By now, his face was already frighteningly pale, and his flesh was lacerated, and he was drenched in blood. During this period of time, his body was shattered and reformed by the power of Wu Dao's true body multiple times. However, the battle between the 3 of them showed no signs of stopping. Kill! The blood-refining demon emperor growled deeply, and his blood chi surged. Gushing out, it conjured a gigantic menacing blood face behind him that lunged towards Wu Dao's true body. Bloodline phenomenon. At the same time, Demon Emperor Bai conjured a blood face phenomenon as well. 2 blood faces descended with an extremely evil aura. Burn! Wu Dao's true body channeled his blood chi at the same time, and he seemed to have vanished. In his place was a gigantic furnace that burned with raging flames, and was almost transparent. The blood faces collided with Wu Dao's furnace, and let out a series of ear-piercing screams. The bloodline phenomenons of the three of them collided. Initially, it was difficult to determine a victor. However, after half an instance's time, the two blood faces could no longer withstand the burning of Wu Dao's furnace and gradually withered in defeat. Fight! Wu Dao's true body revealed itself once more and hollered. His aura surged and he attacked once more, enveloping the blood-refining Demon Emperor and Demon Emperor by. Wu Dao's true body became more ferocious the more he fought. The martial Dao was about advancing courageously, about advancing bravely and fiercely. In that exchange, Wu Dao's will was tempered to an even stronger state. The strength of Wu Dao's true body was rising continuously as well. The cycle went on. Gradually, the blood-refining Demon Emperor was at a disadvantage and retaliated less and more defensively. Demon Emperor Bai was no match for him and retreated repeatedly. Wu Dao's true body was invincible and domineering against two opponents single-handedly. Like an emperor descending with a domineering might, he suppressed the blood-refining Demon Emperor and Demon Emperor Bai completely. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 1767. The fight between the other emperors did not pose much of a threat to the human emperors. After all, Night Spirit had comprehended two supreme divine powers and was almost invincible among the emperors. However, the outcome of the situation here could not affect the overall situation. The only way for Tianhuang mainland to escape this catastrophe was to kill the blood refinement fiend emperor completely. The emperors were not involved and could see clearly that although Wu Dao's true body was suppressing the blood refinement fiend emperor, and by a demon emperor, in a 1 versus 2 situation. However, it was impossible for him to kill the blood refinement fiend emperor completely within a short period of time. On the other side, the outcome of the fight between Monk Daming and Star Constellation Immortal Emperor was about to be decided. Monk Daming's cultivation time was still way too short. Although Monk Daming had deciphered the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and possessed many profoundness of the Buddhist monasteries, it was still difficult to make up for the accumulation of tens of thousands of years. In terms of strength and divine powers, Monk Daming was disadvantaged. Up till this point of the battle, Monk Daming was already covered in injuries and was in a wretched state with severe blood chi depletion. However, Star Constellation Immortal Emperor was in a much better state. Her robes fluttered, and every single move she made exuded an otherworldly aura. It was clear who was superior. The old storyteller was deeply worried. If Monk Daming was suppressed by Star Constellation Immortal Emperor, it would mean that Wu Dao's true body would have to take on 3 people single-handedly. More importantly, there was a high chance that the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor would refine Monk Daming into his third clone. At that time, even Wu Dao's true body would not be a match for the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's fiend cultivation technique at the Mahayana level. Right then, another change happened on the 2 most critical battlefields. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor was suppressed by Wu Dao's true body, and his eyes shone with a scarlet light. He could no longer hold it in. The Bayan Demon Emperor was in an even more tragic state, and was drenched in blood. Retract! Suddenly, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor withdrew a fishing net from his storage bag. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of essence blood onto the fishing net. Buzz! The fishing net shone with a scarlet light and turned into a blood-colored fishing net in the blink of an eye, exuding an extremely evil aura. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor flipped his hand. The blood-colored fishing net was about to envelop Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's main body frowned slightly. His figure flickered and dodged to the side. Through his spiritual perception, Wu Dao's true body felt that this blood-red fishing net was not easy to deal with. However, no matter how Wu Dao's true body flashed, it was difficult for him to escape the net's envelopment. Wu Dao's true body dodged continuously. Not only was he unable to break free from the crimson net, but he was also getting closer and closer to it. The blood-refining demon emperor smiled coldly and said, "This blood net is a secret technique of the upper realm. It has been refined for 40,000 years. Even if you have the ability to fly, you won't be able to escape." As his voice fell, the blood-red fishing net descended and enveloped Wu Dao's true body. The moment the blood-red fishing net came into contact with Wu Dao's true body, it directly stuck to it and continuously tightened. Break! Wu Dao's true body's blood qi surged, and his body expanded. His flesh expanded, and he wanted to burst forth with the power within his body to break free from the blood-red fishing net. However, as his body expanded, the blood-red fishing net expanded as well. His power had no effect on the blood-red fishing net at all. The fishing net was soft to begin with. Wu Dao's true body's power was the strongest, and was coincidentally countered by the fishing net. Although Wu Dao's true body's power was ferocious, the fishing net was spread out and negated it. Not only that, the blood-red fishing net emitted an evil blood qi when it got close to Wu Dao's true body. It seeped into Wu Dao's true body through his purple robes. Wu Dao's true body frowned slightly. That blood-red fishing net was indeed somewhat frightening. If he could not break free from the fishing net, he might even be assimilated and devoured by the blood refinement fiend emperor, let alone kill him. The situation changed once more. In the blink of an eye, Wu Dao's true body was in a passive position. On the other side, although Monk Daming looked dispirited, he had no intention of retreating. His gaze was still benevolent as he looked at star constellation Immortal Emperor, who was not far away. Monk Daming pressed his palms together and closed his eyes, chanting Sanskrit. All of a sudden, one after another, tall and sacred Buddhas appeared around star constellation Immortal Emperor. They shone brightly with a boundless might. Every single Buddha was chanting Sanskrit sutras that reverberated through the world. Gradually, the phantoms of divine dragons and divine elephants appeared around those Buddhas. The divine dragons roared, and the divine elephants trumpeted. It was the strongest supreme divine power of the Buddhist monasteries, Buddha Dragon Elephant. One could only comprehend the Buddha Dragon Elephant with the deepest comprehension of the Buddhist Dharma and the fusion of many profundities of the Buddhist monasteries. Even Qinglian's true body had not comprehended that supreme divine power. In Tianhuang mainland, Monk Daming was the only one who had managed to do it. The Buddha Dragon Elephant descended and suppressed star constellation Immortal Emperor with a terrifying power. Stars fall. Star constellation Immortal Emperor had a grim expression and did not dare to be careless as she released her supreme divine power hurriedly. Instantly the world trembled. Above the firmaments, countless stars streaked down with terrifying auras and descended towards Tianhuang mainland with streaks of flames. However, the Buddhas were protected by their Buddhist lights and dragon elephants. Those stars could not shake the power of the Buddhas. Nether Blood Shield, star constellation Immortal Emperor's expression changed starkly as she realized that a single supreme divine power could not shake the Buddha Dragon Elephant. Immediately, she released a second supreme divine power. The moment the Buddha Dragon Elephant appeared, star constellation Immortal Emperor had to release two supreme divine powers consecutively to defend against it. Boom! 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 The power of the Buddhas collided with the stars. Countless Sanskrit sutras suppressed star constellation Immortal Emperor. Countless sacred Buddhist lights descended, wanting to purify star constellation Immortal Emperor. However, star constellation Immortal Emperor reacted extremely quickly and condensed a shimmering blood-colored shield above her head, shielding her behind it. Countless Sanskrit sutras and Buddhist lights landed on the nether blood shield, creating ripples. Star constellation Immortal Emperor's face was pale. This was the first time he felt threatened by Monk Daming. Thankfully, his cultivation was extremely high, and he managed to defend against the Buddha Dragon Elephant with the help of two supreme divine powers. Since he managed to defend against it, it was time for Monk Daming to die. On the other side of the battlefield, when Wu Dao's true body sensed that, he was invigorated as well. The martial spirit fire within his body burned furiously, and he seemed to have transformed into a gigantic furnace that wanted to burn the blood-colored fishing net into ashes. TSK, TSK, TSK. However, the blood-colored fishing net released streams of blood qi that resisted Wu Dao's furnace. Wu Dao's furnace could not incinerate it right away. When the blood refinement fiend emperor saw that, he frowned slightly and felt uneasy. I can't delay this any longer. I've got to resolve everything as soon as possible. The blood refinement fiend emperor's eyes shone with a blood light. Blood-boiling spear. Almost at the same time, the blood refinement fiend emperor and Bian demon emperor channeled their essence spirits and released their supreme divine powers. A blood-dripping spear was formed in the palms of the two emperors. Their bloodlines surged, and they emitted hot air as they hurled it towards Wu Dao's true body. Chapter 1768. The blood net shrunk continuously and blood qi spread, restricting the movements of Wu Dao's true body. If it were just two supreme divine powers, they wouldn't be able to pose any threat to Wu Dao's true body. However, within the blood net, Wu Dao's true body could not release his strength at all. His body was soaked in blood, and his strength was greatly suppressed. Two spears condensed from blood tore through the air with a scorching aura. Those two supreme divine powers were unable to kill Wu Dao's true body yet. However, if he could not break free from the blood net, Wu Dao's true body would be akin to a live target. The blood refinement fiend emperor and demon monarch C would attack continuously with ferocious attacks. Wu Dao's true body might not be able to withstand it either. At that thought, Wu Dao's true body channeled his essence spirit, and an incomparably scorching power of divine powers burst forth from his body, causing scarlet flames to burst forth from his body. The blood refinement fiend emperor narrowed his gaze, and his heart skipped a beat. This kind of crimson-red flame made his heart palpitate. Incinerate the heavens and boil the seas. Dragon phoenix flames? No, the blood refinement fiend emperor denied internally. Those flames were definitely not the two types mentioned above. That was a divine power that he had never seen before. In the blink of an eye, the two blood refinement spears had already arrived before Wu Dao's true body. However, when the two supreme divine powers collided with the flames on Wu Dao's true body, they were incinerated instantly like snow meeting the blazing sun, and dissipated into nothingness. The two supreme divine powers failed to injure Wu Dao's true body at all. Wu Dao's true body burned with flames, but his gaze was cold as he glared at the blood refinement fiend emperor not far away. A crystalline lotus that shone with red light gradually formed in his palm. It burned with flames and spun slowly. The blood light on the fishing net began to dim. The entire fishing net crackled as it was burned. It writhed madly, and its aura continued to weaken. After the blazing red lotus was formed, the blood-colored fishing net could no longer hold on, and a huge hole was burned into it. The magical equipment that the blood-refining fiend emperor had nurtured for 40,000 years was completely ruined and fell off from Wu Dao's body. Seeing this, the blood-refining demon emperor's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Furious, he wanted to take action and retrieve the broken fishing net. Right at that moment, a voice sounded in the blood-refining demon emperor's mind. Don't go. It's karmic fire. The blood-refining demon emperor was slightly taken aback. This is the Red Lotus Hellfire. Retreat. The voice in the blood-refining demon emperor's mind became somewhat grave. At this moment, Wu Dao threw the Red Lotus of Hellfire at the blood-refining demon emperor. The red karmic fire lotus transformed into a beam of rainbow light and arrived in an instant. The blood-refining demon emperor hated the red lotus to the core. He immediately executed another exceptional skill, the blood demon giant palm, and grabbed at the red lotus of karmic fire. Don't touch it. The voice in the blood-refining demon emperor's mind sounded once more. However, it was too late. A gigantic blood-colored palm grabbed the red lotus of hellfire. It failed to injure the red lotus of hellfire at all. Instead, the blood-colored palm was burned full of holes. The blood-refining demon emperor's pupils constricted as he realized how powerful it was. He retreated, wanting to avoid the red lotus of hellfire. However, the karmic fire burned the blood-colored palm and extended along the exceptional skill. A tiny cluster of karmic fire landed on the blood-refining demon emperor's body. Where there was karma, there was karma. The karmic fire was like a catalyst. Although it was only a tiny flame, it ignited the karma on the blood-refining demon emperor's body instantly. Instantly, the blood-refining demon emperor's body burst into flames. For the past 40,000 years, the blood-refining demon emperor schemed against the 10,000 races and orchestrated 4 catastrophes single-handedly. His hands were stained with the blood of countless living beings. That was all bad karma. The more bad karma one had, the more terrifying the lethality of the karmic fire would be. In the blink of an eye, the blood-refining demon emperor was burned into a gigantic fireball that engulfed his body completely. Ah, ah, ah. The blood-refining demon emperor's tragic cries sounded from within the fireball in extreme pain. The red lotus of karmic fire slammed into the blood-refining demon emperor, almost piercing through his body. Exclamation point. The blood-refining demon emperor spat out a mouthful of blood that was incinerated by the karmic fire before it could even splatter. At the side, demon emperor Bai was shocked and hid at the side hurriedly, not daring to advance. Before long, the tragic cries from the gigantic fireball came to an abrupt end. The blood-refining demon emperor is dead? The emperors were shocked. If the blood-refining demon emperor was dead, given the combat strength of Wu Dao's true body, even if demon emperor Bai and star constellation immortal emperor joined forces, they would not be a match for him. Wu Dao's true body frowned slightly. He was the only one who knew that the blood-refining demon emperor was not dead. If the blood-refining demon emperor was dead, the dragon phoenix true body and Qinglian true body would break free from the restraints of the blood refinement fiend sutra. Right now, the 2 true bodies were still resisting the power of the blood refinement fiend sutra and could barely fend for themselves. The gigantic karmic fire gradually dimmed. The blood-refining demon emperor's figure reappeared. The blood-refining demon emperor looked extremely wretched. His flesh was lacerated from the karmic fire, and his flesh was mangled. However, a powerful life force aura emanated from his body. Furthermore, that aura was still rising rapidly. Wu Dao's true body focused his gaze. The blood-refining demon emperor was wearing a blood mask. The blood mask emanated a powerful fiend qi that surged into the blood-refining demon emperor's body endlessly and repaired his body. The blood-refining demon emperor's injuries healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The blood mask was the reason why Wu Dao's true body's karmic fire was suppressed. Araki Takashi, you've truly surprised me. Through the mask, the blood-refining demon emperor's voice was filled with deep hatred as he said coldly, "Let's see what else you have up your sleeves." Before his sentence was completed, torrential blood qi emanated from the blood-refining demon emperor's body and charged towards Wu Dao's true body. The blood-refining demon emperor punched. Wu Dao's true body punched out as well and received the attack. Boom! There was a deafening sound. Wu Dao's true body shuddered, and a series of crackling sounds could be heard from within his body, as though his bones were about to fall apart. Thud! 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 Wu Dao's true body could not defend against the blood-refining demon emperor's punch, and retreated 3 steps in succession. Wu Dao's true body's heart skipped a beat. After wearing the blood mask, the blood-refining demon emperor's strength increased exponentially and reached an extremely terrifying level, nearly injuring Wu Dao's true body. Not only that, the blood qi within the blood-refining demon emperor's body seemed to have a mind of its own as it extended towards Wu Dao's true body's arm through his fist. In the blink of an eye, the palm of Wu Dao's true body was already filled with blood vessels. Xing! The blood vessels contained an extremely evil power that corroded Wu Dao's true body's flesh and caused billowing smoke to rise. Wu Dao's true body had a grim expression. The blood-refining demon emperor had clearly made use of another type of power. Fiend qi flowed endlessly from the blood mask. With the augmentation of that power, the blood-refining demon emperor's combat strength increased exponentially. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 1769. Boom, boom, boom. 3 deafening sounds echoed from the body of Wu Dao's true body, as though he had broken free of some sort of shackles and opened a secret ground. 3 mysterious purple halos appeared behind Wu Dao's true body, condensing countless Daos and dermic powers. 3 fate wheels appeared. The aura of Wu Dao's true body surged, and the power within his body rose rapidly. Enveloped by the three purple halos, Wu Dao's true body was like a true god that reigned supreme over the world. "What's that?" the blood refinement fiend emperor murmured softly with a bewildered expression. However, the voice did not sound this time round. That was because even the voice did not understand what the three spinning purple halos behind Wu Dao's true body represented. The appearance of the three fate wheels caused the blood-colored threads on the palm of Wu Dao's true body to disperse instantly and fall off. "Fight!" Wu Dao's true body hollered, and with three fate wheels behind him, he moved his feet and interweaved dermic powers to form the image of a turtle and snake. With a torrential aura, Wu Dao's true body descended before the blood refinement fiend emperor, while stepping on the turtle and snake, throwing a punch. That punch was indestructible and unbreakable. The blood refinement fiend emperor raised his arms as well and channeled his blood chi. The blood mask released rumbling fiend chi that gathered on his arms as he clashed head-on with Wu Dao's true body. Boom! It was accompanied by an earth-shattering boom. Both of them took a step back each. Both Wu Dao's true body and the blood refinement fiend were already in the void turbulence. Their surroundings were dark and boundless. However, the power released by that punch still caused Tianhuang mainland to tremble. "Ah!" the blood refinement fiend emperor growled deeply. Suddenly, countless blood faces were released from the blood mask and surrounded Wu Dao's true body, biting wildly. The fate wheels behind Wu Dao's true body spun slowly. The moment the blood faces charged forward, they were destroyed by the three fate wheels. The three fate wheels of Wu Dao's true body could even crush dermic treasures in the world. Boom! 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 The two of them charged together once more and exchanged blows continuously. Their chi and blood collided and their fists collided, erupting into a series of fierce attacks. From the start of the battle until now, the two of them had already given it their all without holding back. Although Wu Dao's original body had the upper hand, the blood-refining demon emperor had the help of the crimson mask. It was almost impossible for Wu Dao's original body to suppress him. Meanwhile, the blood-refining demon emperor was also unable to break free from Wu Dao's attacks. Wu Dao's true body held the upper hand. He directly launched a suffocating attack. Like a raging storm, he used his unparalleled strength and vast physical strength to completely suppress his opponent. "Do you have a way or not?" the blood-refining demon emperor roared inwardly. "You always brag about your background. Don't tell me you can't defeat this person from the lower world." "My strength hasn't recovered at all," a voice echoed in the blood-refining demon emperor's mind. "Besides, there's an upper limit to one's strength in the lower realm. I wonder what kind of technique this guy is practicing that allowed him to break through the upper limit. Even if we don't kill him, he's going to face the tribulation in the future." The blood-refining demon emperor grit his teeth and said, "We can't wait for his tribulation anymore. I'm suppressed by him right now and can't even break free. What's the point of telling me about the tribulation transcendence? You're also trash." The voice sneered. "I told you to refine that monk Daming long ago, but you refused to listen and allowed him to cultivate. Great. Now that he has deciphered the blood refinement fiend sutra, there's a huge flaw in your fiend technique. If my fiend technique is perfected, there's no need to worry about not being able to kill this person." Sensing the danger on the blood-refining demon emperor's side, star constellation immortal emperor's attacks became even more ferocious. Monk Daming no longer had any trump cards left after deciphering the Buddha dragon elephant. Under star constellation immortal emperor's attacks, he was forced to retreat, and his body was severely injured. Even with Monk Daming's self-healing abilities, it was difficult for him to recover within a short period of time. While Wu Dao's true body was fighting the blood-refining demon emperor, Baiyan demon emperor seized the opportunity to escape and charged towards Monk Daming. Baiyan demon emperor was prepared to join forces with star constellation immortal emperor to suppress Monk Daming as soon as possible. With that, the blood-refining demon emperor would be able to refine Monk Daming into his third clone and perfect his fiend technique and turn the tables. Monk Daming's expression was pale as he retreated continuously. However, his gaze was still benevolent, and there was no hint of emotions in his eyes. "Kill!" Star constellation immortal emperor strode forward and extended her gigantic palm, releasing an extremely ferocious power that seemed as though she wanted to pluck down the stars in the firmaments. It was the supreme divine power, star-plucking hand. The gigantic star-plucking hand crushed down towards Monk Daming. "It's time to end this." Monk Daming sighed gently and looked at Star Constellation Immortal Emperor, who was not far away. Instead, he advanced and charged forward. "Do you have a death wish?" Star Constellation Immortal Emperor cursed. Naturally, he would not kill Monk Daming. All he had to do was restrain Monk Daming's essence spirit and release a secret skill to assimilate the latter completely. Monk Daming smiled gently, and a destructive aura burst forth from his body. The aura was extremely violent and almost drowned Star Constellation Immortal Emperor. The moment Demon Emperor Bian charged forward, he realized that something was amiss. After all, he was a demon, and his spirit perception was extraordinary. Without hesitation, he retreated. "You!" Suddenly, Star Constellation Immortal Emperor's eyes widened as though she realized something. Her eyes were filled with deep fear, and even her voice trembled. "Heavenly Demon Disintegration." Monk Daming uttered 4 words. Boom! With that, Monk Daming's body exploded in front of Star Constellation Immortal Sovereign, creating a terrifying storm that engulfed Star Constellation Immortal Sovereign in an instant. At this moment, it was as though the world had stopped. Accompanied by that deafening sound, the entire battlefield of the Emperors shook violently. The Emperors turned to look at everything in disbelief. Right in front of the Emperors, Star Constellation Immortal Emperor was torn apart by the destructive storm. Her corpse was destroyed, and even her essence spirit could not escape. Heavenly Demon Disintegration. The storyteller old man was shocked. The Heavenly Demon Disintegration was a legendary supreme divine power. It was said that the person who released that supreme divine power would die immediately. However, the moment it disintegrated, it would release an extremely powerful energy storm that would destroy everything in its surroundings and devour all life. No one would have thought that Monk Daming would actually be able to comprehend this peerless divine ability. At the same time, nobody expected Monk Daming to release the Heavenly Demon Disintegration without hesitation at this moment and die at the same time as Star Constellation Immortal Emperor. "No!" The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor roared when he sensed what happened in Tianhuang mainland. The death of Star Constellation Immortal Emperor meant that one of his clones had disappeared completely. More than that, it meant that there was an even greater flaw in his fiend technique. Of course, what the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor could not accept was the death of Monk Daming. More than that, it meant that there was an even greater flaw in his fiend technique. Of course, what the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor could not accept was the death of Monk Daming. Chapter 1770. Monk Daming was dead. The impact was not only limited to taking away a clone of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. More than that, Monk Daming's choice caused an irreparable flaw to appear in the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's fiend cultivation technique, and he would never be able to attain perfection for the rest of his life. The two of them had been fighting for 40,000 years, and there was finally an outcome at this moment. Although Monk Daming had died, Monk Daming had won the battle between the two of them. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's aura weakened as though he was struck by lightning. Initially, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor could barely restrain Su Zimo's 2 true bodies with the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, because they were not deeply fiendish. But now that Monk Daming and Star Constellation Immortal Emperor were dead, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's fiend cultivation technique was severely damaged. The auras of the 2 true bodies surged, and they broke free from the restraints and influence of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, awakening. The death of Monk Daming was a huge psychological blow to the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. In fact, a flaw even appeared in the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's Dao heart. While others might not be able to sense such a minute change, Wu Dao's true body, who was fighting the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, felt it the clearest. It was as though the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor aged significantly at that moment, turning listless and lethargic. Su Zimo looked in the direction of Monk Daming's death in silence. It was empty and nothing was left behind. The human emperor's mirror, the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple, and everything else had turned into ashes. All traces of Monk Daming vanished without a trace in the heavenly fiend disintegration. Su Zimo could not help but recall the scenes of his encounter with Monk Daming, as though everything happened yesterday. He could never understand Monk Daming. He did not know what Monk Daming was thinking about. Monk Daming cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and broke out of his coffin. His hands were stained with endless blood, and he was no longer the compassionate monk of the past. However, there was still a Buddha nature left in Monk Daming's body. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to cultivate the strongest supreme divine power of the Buddhist monasteries, Dragon Elephant Buddha. Su Zimo did not know if Monk Daming was a Buddha or a fiend. It was only at this moment that he truly understood Monk Daming. From the moment Monk Daming broke out of the coffin, he had no intention of living. His only goal in life was to decipher the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and defeat the Blood Fiend. He had succeeded. Thus, in this battle, Monk Daming shaved off his long hair and returned to his former appearance. It was also because he was prepared to die. The heavenly fiend disintegration was a peerless divine ability of the fiend sections. However, on Monk Daming's body, it released the benevolence of the Buddhist sects. The old storyteller and all the rulers looked in the direction where Monk Daming had disappeared. Other than shock, there was only respect in their eyes. 1,000 years ago, when the eternal human emperor descended to the lower realm, he could clearly tell that Monk Daming cultivated in a fiendish technique. However, he still handed the human emperor mirror to Monk Daming. Perhaps it was because the human emperor had seen the compassion in the depths of Monk Daming's heart. Roar! Ah! Qinglian's dragon phoenix true body roared toward the sky, her blood and chi surging. Her dragon phoenix true body reverted to her true form and burned with dragon phoenix flames as she charged towards Bian demon emperor. Qinglian's dragon phoenix true body grew 3 heads and 6 arms as well. Wielding many Dharma treasures in her hands, she suppressed Bian demon emperor. The 2 dragon phoenix true bodies joined forces to fight Bian demon emperor. Bang! 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 The moment the 2 sides made contact, a deafening collision broke out. Under normal circumstances, Bian Demon Emperor's combat strength was above Su Zimo's 2 Dragon Phoenix true bodies. However, in the earlier battle, Bian Demon Emperor was heavily injured by Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body. He was severely drained and his combat strength was greatly reduced. The death of Star Constellation Immortal Emperor affected him to a certain extent as well. Now that he was surrounded by Su Zimo's 2 Dragon Phoenix true bodies, he was instantly disadvantaged and retreated continuously as his injuries worsened. On the other side in the void, brace yourself. Don't die here. The voice echoed in the blood-refining demon emperor's head again. This time, it sounded rather hurried as it berated. I've helped you for 40,000 years, and I'm about to ascend. I don't want you to die here. The blood refinement demon emperor remained silent and did not reply. The attacks of Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body were getting more ferocious. The blood refinement demon emperor retreated step by step. His fists were already mangled, and he was coughing out blood continuously. The reason why he was still able to hold on right now was because of the continuous release of fiend chi from the blood mask. Hurry and run. Did you hear that? He won't be able to catch up to you with blood escape. With the help of your fiend technique, you'll definitely be able to make a comeback one day. The voice in the blood refinement demon emperor's mind continued and sounded increasingly anxious. There was still no reply from the blood refinement demon emperor. Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body punched through the blood refinement demon emperor's defense and suddenly reached out to grab the latter's face. Let's see what sort of thing you are. The eyes of Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body shone brightly as he hollered. As though it was sentient, the blood mask sensed danger and released rumbling fiend chi that formed a sword that pierced towards the palm of Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body. Poof! Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body clenched his fist tightly and crushed the fiend chi sword. Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body strode forward and continued to grab at the blood mask. As long as the blood mask was removed, the blood refinement demon emperor would no longer be a threat. Swash! Seeing that there was no way to dodge, the blood mask fell off the blood refinement demon emperor's face on its own and transformed into a streak of blood light that sped into the distance. Where do you think you're going? The arm of Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body suddenly expanded, and his blood qi surged. His palm extended and expanded continuously, almost blotting out the entire sky. Piak! The palm of Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body landed on the blood mask and dissipated most of the fiend qi on the mask. Every single punch or palm from Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body contained shocking power that could destroy all dermic treasures. However, that palm strike did not manage to damage the blood mask at all. Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body closed his fingers, wanting to restrain the blood mask first for refinement in the future. However, the moment he grabbed the blood mask, he felt a sharp pain in his palm. Poof! A flash of blood appeared. The blood mask broke free from the palm of Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body. Not only that, the blood mask even cut a few wounds on the palm of Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body that were dripping with blood. Even the blood refinement Demon Emperor's dermic treasure could not injure the body of Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body. The blood mask managed to cut the palm of Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body. Not only that, the fiend qi released by the blood mask tainted the wounds on the palm of Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body. The flesh around the wounds turned greenish-black and could not heal easily. Wu Dao's Dragon Phoenix true body was secretly alarmed. Right then, Su Zimo's glabella shone, and a gigantic tripod that was more than 10 feet tall flew out. It had 4 legs and 2 ears and was filled with cracks, exuding an ancient aura. The bronze square tripod transformed into a streak of light and crushed down on the blood mask. Ah! Suddenly, a frantic shriek sounded from the blood mask that was filled with fear. That tripod. Chapter 1771. The origin of the blood mask was unknown, but there was a high chance that it came from the upper world. Even Wu Dao's true body could not suppress it with his full strength, let alone Su Zimo's other dermic treasures. Although the bronze square tripod was filled with cracks and looked like it was completely crippled, it had been indestructible ever since Su Zimo obtained it. Even if it took on all the top-tier dermic treasures of Tianhuang mainland head-on, the bronze square tripod would not be damaged at all. Su Zimo did not think much when he summoned the bronze square tripod. He merely thought that he might be able to restrain the blood mask with the bronze square tripod, so that Wu Dao's true body could think of a way to suppress it. To think that there would be a living being hidden within the blood mask with an intense reaction, as though it knew the bronze square tripod. If the blood mask came from the upper world, the bronze square tripod must be something of the upper world as well. Furthermore, the blood mask seemed to be extremely fearful of the bronze square tripod. Boom! The bronze square tripod descended suddenly and smashed onto the blood mask. Ah! A blood-curdling scream came from within the blood-red mask. The rumbling fiend qi around the blood mask was shattered by that single blow, and the blood on the mask was splattered everywhere. The blood rapidly condensed into a single drop of blood in midair that emitted an evil aura, wanting to attach itself to the mask once more. At that moment, Wu Dao's true body abandoned the blood refinement fiend emperor decisively and descended before lifting the bronze square tripod to suppress it once more. Boom! It was yet another deafening sound. The drop of blood was shattered by the bronze square tripod once more. Even though the drop of blood was recondensed, its blood glow was much dimmer. Wu Dao's true body reached out and trapped the remaining drop of blood in his palm. With a single thought, Wu Dao's true body closed his fingers, and an impenetrable prison was formed in his palm. Although the drop of blood was dim, it was still extremely violent and shrouded in fiend qi. This drop of blood sometimes transformed into a strange and ferocious bloody face, and sometimes it condensed into a lifeless tombstone. It rampaged in the palm of the martial Dao true body, trying to break free from his grasp. Wu Dao sneered and condensed his martial soul fire and red lotus hellfire in his palms. The two flames burned at the same time. Ah! 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 The drop of blood let out a miserable shriek. It was extremely painful. Even so, the two flames were still unable to completely refine it. He did not know the origin of this drop of blood, nor did he know whose blood it was. Even though it was only a single drop, it was still able to resist the power of the martial spirit fire and the red lotus fire. At this moment the battle had yet to end. Wu Dao kept the prison and let his martial soul fire and karmic fire of the red lotus burn and refine the drop of blood. Although the two balls of flames were unable to refine it, they were still able to refine it. However, for this drop of blood to break free from the prison formed by Wu Dao's true body, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The martial Dao body picked up the mask that was floating in the air. Without the taint of the blood-red light, the mask returned to its original appearance. It was silvery white, and it was unknown what material it was made of, but it was slightly cool to the touch. Wu Dao clenched his fist tightly, intending to crush the mask and throw it away. However, the silver mask was perfectly fine. Wu Dao's true body could crush even an artifact into scrap metal, yet he could not even crush a mask that was as thin as a cicada's wing. The silver mask was clearly no ordinary artifact. Wu Dao kept the silver mask and tossed the bronze square cauldron back to Qinglian's true body. He then moved closer to the blood-refining demon emperor. Without the blood mask, the blood-refining demon emperor's aura weakened significantly. His strength was significantly weakened too. The injuries that he had accumulated during the battle with Wu Dao's true body were completely unleashed within a short period of time, causing him to age significantly. On the other side of the battlefield, against the combined attacks of the two true bodies, the Baiyan Demon Emperor was already at the end of his rope. The Dragon Phoenix true body extended its menacing claws and lunged forward to engage the Baiyan Demon Emperor in melee combat. It bit furiously, and its innate divine powers were released repeatedly. Heaven and earth shook and the voids on the battlefield were filled with cracks. The Dragon Phoenix true body restrained the Baiyan Demon Emperor tightly. Su Zimo received the bronze square cauldron tossed back by Wu Dao's true body. Raising the gigantic cauldron, he leaped into the air and smashed it viciously towards the Baiyan Demon Emperor's head. Bang! The Baiyan Demon Emperor could not dodge at all against the entanglement of the Dragon Phoenix true body. He could only tilt his head slightly to avoid being hit in his vitals. The bronze square cauldron smashed onto his shoulder heavily, accompanied by a series of cracking sounds. The Baiyan Demon Emperor's shoulder was smashed into smithereens. Roar! The Baiyan Demon Emperor let out a painful roar. Half of his body was almost smashed into pieces by the bronze square cauldron. Exclamation point! The Dragon Phoenix true body seized the opportunity and chomped off the Baiyan Demon Emperor's head. Blood spewed and splattered everywhere. The essence spirit of the Baiyan Demon Emperor broke free from his shell. The moment it escaped, it saw a shadow looming over. The bronze square cauldron descended once more. Bang! The essence spirit of the Baiyan Demon Emperor was destroyed on the spot by the bronze square cauldron. The blood refinement fiend Emperor's second clone was completely dead as well. After losing 2 clones in succession, the blood refinement fiend Emperor's combat strength decreased immensely after losing the blood mask. Blood fiend die! The gaze of Wu Dao's true body intensified, and his attacks became even more ferocious. Punch after punch, he did not give the blood refinement fiend Emperor any chance to catch his breath. Bang! Finally, the blood refinement fiend Emperor could not hold on any longer, and was punched heavily in the chest by Wu Dao's true body, breaking through his defenses. That punch almost severed the life force within the blood refinement fiend Emperor's body. The blood chi within the blood refinement fiend Emperor's body deteriorated rapidly, and his life force drained away. Right now, the blood refinement fiend Emperor was no longer as glorious as before. His body was tattered, his hair was disheveled, and he was covered in injuries. He was at the end of his road. Fu. Suddenly, the blood refinement fiend Emperor burst into laughter and murmured, "To think that I would still lose to you in the end. Ha 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 ha." It was clear that the blood refinement fiend Emperor was not referring to Su Zimo. As his laughter subsided, the blood refinement fiend Emperor suddenly raised his head and glared fiercely at Wu Dao's true body, snarling through clenched teeth. "Araki Takashi, if not for Monk Daming, you wouldn't have been able to defeat me." Wu Dao's true body was silent. If Monk Daming had not sacrificed himself to destroy one of the blood refinement fiend Emperor's clones, The outcome of this battle would have been unpredictable. That's fine too. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor suddenly smiled. Since you're already dead, I'll make a move first. I'll follow you to the Netherworld as well. Let's fight again when we reach Acheron's path. Realizing that the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor was about to commit suicide, Wu Dao's true body arrived before the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor in a flash and restrained his essence spirit. There were still many secrets about the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. Who was the creator of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra? What was the cloning technique that the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor cultivated? What was the origin of that blood mask? Wu Dao's true body wanted to get an answer to all of those secrets. Chapter 1772. Wu Dao's true body's vast spirit consciousness descended and sealed the space around the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. Reaching out, he slapped the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's head. A blood-colored essence spirit was captured by Wu Dao's true body, above the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's head. What are you trying to do? The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor growled. Actually, he already had a premonition of what was about to happen. Without hesitation, a ball of light appeared in Wu Dao's true body's palm. A series of pitch-black chains grew from the ball of light and coiled around the essence spirit of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. Up till this point of the battle, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's essence spirit was weak, and he had lost 2 of his clones consecutively. In fact, the death of Monk Daming had even affected his Dao heart. This was the best opportunity for him to use his soul-searching technique on the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. All sorts of memories surged into the mind of Wu Dao's true body instantly, flashing past his eyes like scrolls. The strange thing was that the memories of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's childhood were a little blurry and were hidden in the depths of his memories. It was as though they were the parts that the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor was most unwilling to touch and could not be seen clearly. Wu Dao's true body did not waste time on that and looked back immediately. By the time everything became clear, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor was already a teenager. However, his cultivation was already at the Void Reversion realm. It was clear how terrifying his talent was. The first thing that Wu Dao's true body saw was the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor fighting against a Dharma Daojun. The Dharma Daojun was a middle-aged man with dark red hair that scattered casually. His features were handsome, and his purple eyes seemed to exude a sinister charm. However, no matter how handsome his face was, it looked somewhat menacing at the moment as he glared at the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, not far away, with a furious expression. Wu Dao's true body could see clearly that the saber in the hands of the Dharma Daojun was none other than the Shura saber. That was the titular disciple of Shura sect back then. Although the blood-refining demon emperor was a descendant of the Bloodvine race, there was a huge gap between the two of them, and he was facing a titular disciple of the Shura sect. He was still heavily injured and lost his ability to fight, falling to the ground. At this moment, the blood-refining demon emperor didn't seem to be as terrifying as he was in the future. His face was still young and inexperienced. He bit his lip and glared viciously at the Dao Lord of the Shura sect without saying a word. "You little bastard, how dare you attack me?" The Shura Dao Lord let out a fierce roar. "Damn you!" Blood-refining demon emperor shouted. The Dao Lord of the Shura sect did not say anything. He merely stared at the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor coldly. No one knew what he was thinking as his expression kept changing. A moment later, the Dao Lord of Shura sect wielded his Shura saber and walked towards the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, with a dark gaze with a hint of killing intent. He said coldly, "Those who aren't of our race will definitely have ulterior motives. Indeed, I can't let you live." As he spoke, the Dao Lord of Shura sect had already arrived before the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor and raised his Shura saber, about to slash down. Right then the world quaked. Wu Dao's true body focused his gaze. 2 items fell from the firmaments. One of them was the bronze square tripod. The other was the blood face mask. The bronze square tripod fell towards the north region of Tianhuang mainland. As though sensing something, the blood mask flew towards the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor instantly. Clang! The Dao Lord of Shura sect slashed down, but failed to slice the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor's head into two. Instead, it bounced off the blood mask. That person shuddered. As for the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, he put on the blood mask and suddenly shot up from the ground. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor burst forth with a terrifying power and raised the broken saber in his hands, stabbing it into the glabella of the Shura sect Dao Lord. That fatal slash killed the titular disciple of Shura sect right away. The whole process happened in the blink of an eye. Even before he died, the titular disciple could not understand why the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, who had already lost his combat strength, would suddenly burst forth and kill him. When Wu Dao's true body saw this, he finally confirmed something. Both the bronze square tripod and the blood mask came from the upper world and descended at the same time 40,000 years ago. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor looked at the corpse of the titular disciple of Shura sect with a conflicted expression. After a long time, he took a deep breath of air and turned to leave. Wu Dao's true body continued browsing through the memories of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. Through those memories, Wu Dao's true body resolved many of his doubts. Although the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra was indeed created by the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, with the secret skill of the Blood Vine race as the foundation, it was with the help of the living being in the blood mask. The living being in the blood mask gave the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor a lot of help in his cultivation. Later on, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor was hunted down by the immortal Buddhist and Fiend sects without anyone helping him. If not for the blood mask, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor would have died long ago. Through the memories of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, Wu Dao's true body saw Monk Daming of the past as well. Although the two of them were mortal enemies, however, in the heart of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, Monk Daming was his only confidant. That was because Monk Daming was the only one among all the cultivators who was willing to give him a chance. In the final battle between the two of them, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor seized the opportunity to fake his death under the suggestion of the blood mask to cultivate another fiend technique in secret. That was the clone technique imparted to the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor by the blood mask, the three-corpse primordial art. Su Zimo had heard the Night Spirit mention this clone technique before as well. It was said to be on par with the three pure ones of the immortal sects and the three bodies of the Buddhist monasteries. However, Wu Dao's true body could not find out the origin of the blood mask, even after browsing through the memories of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. The living being in the blood mask had never mentioned it before either. Initially, Wu Dao's true body wanted to wipe out the essence spirit of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor directly. However, he hesitated for a moment and was suddenly curious about the blurry memories of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor when he was young. Wu Dao's true body returned to unravel the memories. That memory was revealed bit by bit. As the scenes flashed before his eyes, the expression of Wu Dao's true body gradually turned conflicted. The asterisk starred. How dare you defy my orders? A young and tender face was ruthlessly stepped on by a blood vine clansman. His face was trampled into the mud and was continuously crushed. Looking down from above, the blood vine being stomped on the young man's face and remarked coldly, "Your AB asterisk starred and your mother is a SL asterisk T. Don't scold my mother." Although the young man was being stomped on with his face buried in the mud and his mouth stuffed with sand, he grit his teeth and retorted with a furious expression, "Fufu," the blood vine being sneered. "Your mother gave birth to you because she seduced a wild man outside. You guys are the disgrace of the blood vine race." As he scolded, the blood vine being stomped the young man's face into the mud viciously. A group of blood vine beings stood around and watched the commotion while mocking brazenly. Suddenly, Wu Dao's true body understood why the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor would kill all the blood vine race without a single survivor. When Wu Dao's true body saw those memories, the essence spirit of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor suddenly became agitated and wanted to break free from the restraints of Wu Dao's true body. Those were the deepest secrets of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor. Given the pride of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, there was no way he would mention such an experience to anyone else. Chapter Chapter 1773. Wu Dao's true body continued to browse through the memories of the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor and witnessed everything. The Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor was bullied in the Bloodvine race, and any random member of the Bloodvine race could punch, kick, and order him around. It was in such an environment that the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor grew up bit by bit. There was only a single reason why he did not leave. His mother was imprisoned in the Bloodvine race. Later on, the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor could only watch helplessly as his mother was forced to death by the Bloodvine race, while he could do nothing about it. Before the Blood Fiend's mother died, she was worried that her child would continue to be bullied in the race, and had him leave the Bloodvine race to search for his father. The Blood Fiend escaped from the Bloodvine race and vanished silently. Nobody in the Bloodvine race cared about his life or death, or searched for him. The Blood Fiend arrived in Tianhuang mainland, and arrived at Shura sect according to the information left behind by his mother. At that point, Wu Dao's true body felt his heart skip a beat. Suddenly, he recalled the initial scene and thought of a terrifying possibility. The Blood Fiend joined Shura sect and cultivated diligently in the Fiend sections. Finally, he found a chance to meet that person. The titular disciple of Shura sect. The first person that Wu Dao's true body saw the Blood Fiend kill was none other than his father. When father and son met, there was no warm scene. Instead, an intense argument broke out. In that lifetime, the Shura had almost forgotten that he was on good terms with a woman of the Bloodvine race, and was indifferent towards the Blood Fiend's existence. "Your mother is merely one of my women," the Shura of that lifetime said indifferently. "I'm merely fooling around with her. We can't be considered as Dao companions at all. We're just putting on a show. Furthermore, it's been so long. Who knows who she was having an affair with in secret to give birth to you?" The Blood Fiend could no longer hold it in, and attacked the Shura of that lifetime, resulting in a huge battle. After that, it was the scene that Wu Dao's true body witnessed for the first time. The Blood Fiend Emperor was bullied in his childhood, and killed his mother and father. His heart was already extremely twisted. Later on, he was hunted down by countless cultivators, and that was how the Blood Refinement Fiend Emperor, who caused multiple catastrophes in the future, was born. All of a sudden, the Blood Refining Demon Emperor's nascent spirit was resisting fiercely. These memories were the things he was most unwilling to face and recall. Given the Blood Refining Demon Emperor's pride, he would never allow anyone else to know these secrets. Ka. Inside the light ball, cracks appeared on the dark chains that entangled the Blood Refining Demon Emperor's soul. They were about to be broken. "No one can kill me, not even you, Araki Takeshi." The Blood Refining Demon Emperor suddenly broke free from the chains. With a hideous and painful expression, he bellowed. Boom! The Blood Refining Demon Emperor's primordial spirit exploded into pieces and vanished in the palm of Wu Dao's true body. As a matter of fact, Wu Dao's true body only needed to close his palm and activate his consciousness to suppress the Blood Refining Demon Emperor. In fact, he could even easily obliterate the Blood Refinement Demon Emperor's primordial spirit. However, Wu Dao's main body ignored him. After seeing those memories, he chose to give the Blood Refining Demon Emperor a chance to commit suicide, leaving him with the last bit of dignity. There was no trace of the Blood Refining Demon Emperor's death. His corpse turned into blood that splattered onto Tianhuang mainland as well. The Blood Demon had almost never experienced any parental love or familial friendship. In the past, he was only bullied, humiliated, unjust, mocked, and hunted. It was precisely because of those experiences that he became the cruel and heartless Blood-Refining Demon Emperor later on. Perhaps, the reason why Monk Daming was willing to give the Blood-Refining Demon Emperor a chance was because he knew about the latter's past. Su Zimo gazed at the voids in silence with a conflicted expression and lamented internally. Although they were both remnants of the primordial races and abandoned pawns, the Blood Demon and Monk Daming walked on completely different paths. Moreover, both of them had unparalleled talent and were extremely talented. The Blood Demon created the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and secretly instigated multiple catastrophes. In a certain sense, for the past 40,000 years, the primordial races were no exception to the rule of the Blood Demon. Every single living being on Tianhuang mainland was merely his chess piece. The ambition of the blood demon was truly terrifying. He wanted to assimilate all living beings on Tianhuang mainland into a single race. If not for Dai Yu's appearance, the blood demon would have succeeded more than 1,000 years ago and nobody could stop him. However, Monk Daming was even more admirable. He had endured for a full 40,000 years in that ancient coffin alone. It was unimaginable what sort of torment he had endured for the past 40,000 years. Eventually, Monk Daming chose to turn fiend and break out of the coffin. Thereafter, he found a way to break the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, among the many Buddhist dharmas, cultivation techniques and secret skills, and broke free from the shackles of the blood demon. Actually, the fight between the two of them lasted for a full 40,000 years, and had just ended. Now that the blood-refining demon emperor was dead, the remaining emperors were nothing to worry about. Against the attack of Wu Dao's true body, all of them died before long. The old storyteller arrived beside Su Zimo, and stood beside him. Looking at the broken battlefield, he sighed gently. It's finally over. Wu Huang, I've once said that the ancient era belonged to the human emperor. And this era belongs to you. No. Su Zimo shook his head. Why? The old storyteller said. You created Wu Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. You uncovered the truth of the primordial era, and suppressed the emperors of the primordial races, so that all races respected you. Now that you've quelled the blood demon catastrophe 40,000 years ago, your achievements should naturally be recorded in the annals of history, for all generations to admire. Su Zimo shook his head gently. This isn't my era alone. In this era, there's the night spirit Lin Xuanji, the dragons, the emperors of the human race and senior. It's because of you guys that such a magnificent era was created. The old storyteller smiled. No matter what, your achievements in this era are unparalleled. Su Zimo sighed. No matter how great my achievements are, they can't obscure Monk Daming's brilliance. The old storyteller was silent. If future generations mention this era, the first thing they would talk about would be Wu Huang, Monk Daming and the blood demon. In the ancient era, the human emperor reigned supreme. However, in this era, Wu Huang, Monk Daming and the blood demon left behind indelible marks, and shone with their own brilliance. Does reincarnation truly exist in this world? Suddenly Su Zimo asked. The old storyteller replied. Reincarnation only exists in legends. Perhaps that power can only be found in the upper world. Su Zimo murmured. If reincarnation exists, I hope that Monk Daming can be reborn in his next life, and obtain an even better reward. The death of Monk Daming, and the blood refinement fiend emperor also meant the end of an era. Su Zimo would not stay on Tianhuang mainland for too long, and would ascend to the immortal realm. From now on, Tianhuang mainland would welcome a brand new era, where the Wu Dao prospered, and all races coexisted. End of chapter. Chapter 1774. With the end of the Blood Fiend War, Tianhuang mainland finally welcomed a long period of peace. The 10,000 races rested, and recovered their vitality in a peaceful manner. For the past 40,000 years, Tianhuang mainland had been baptized by many calamities. Coupled with the endless killing in the cultivation world, countless sects had their legacies severed. Some super sects of the immortal Buddhist and fiend sects alone were destroyed. As for those sects, they left behind some sparks and started to re-establish their sects in Tianhuang mainland to recruit disciples. Su Zimo pondered for a long time, and did not choose to leave Wu Dao's subsequent cultivation dharmic formulations in Tianhuang mainland. It was not that he could not bear to. However, even he did not know if that Dao would work, or what the future would be like. It was enough for him to pass down Wu Dao's 9 transformations. For mortals without spirit roots, as long as they could cultivate Wu Dao's 9 transformations to the 7th transformation, they would be able to cultivate any Dao techniques of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects with a promising future. However, there was only darkness ahead of Wu Dao. Only Wu Dao's true body had the determination and will to walk the great Dao alone. Of course, as Su Zimo's eldest disciple, Kitsune still called Su Zimo to his side and asked her for her choice. Without any hesitation, Bai Mingshui chose to embark on the path of martial arts with an unknown future. Su Zimo did not hide anything and imparted the essence of Wu Dao, including the newest fate will secret realm, to Kitsune. In the following period of time, Su Zimo was in no hurry to leave. Instead, he met with many old friends and bade them farewell one by one. The capital of Great Zhou. A woman in a pale yellow dress stood before the stone steps of the palace with a handsome green-robed scholar beside her. The two of them chatted casually, exchanging glances and smiling at times. After more than 1,000 years, the appearance of the woman and the scholar did not change much. The woman looked at the scholar with the same gentle gaze as before. However, both of their statuses had undergone an earth-shattering change. The woman was now the empress of the Great Zhou Empire, the most respected person in the northern region. Although her cultivation was only at the void reversion realm, her status was comparable to the patriarch of the north region, and even the super sex of Tianhuang mainland. The scholar was no longer the little cultivator who had been hunted down all over the world. Instead, he was the ancient Wu Huang who was respected by all races, and whose name had spread throughout the world. Of course, no matter how noble the Son of Heaven was, he could not be compared to the emperor, let alone Wangu Wu Huang. If others were to see Wangu Wu Huang standing side by side with the emperor of Great Zhou in the Great Zhou Imperial Palace, they would be shocked beyond words. Although the identity of the woman and the scholar had changed greatly, there was no barrier between the two of them when they were together. "Are you leaving?" Ji Yaoxue turned to look at the side of the scholar's face. Then she smiled and asked in a soft voice. "Yes." Su Zimo nodded. Ji Yaoxue smiled. "Head to the upper world. There's still someone waiting for you there." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he turned to look at Ji Yaoxue with a complicated expression in his eyes. "Actually, I've thought about it before. What kind of person would that person be that you can't forget and yearn for so much?" Ji Yaoxue had a relaxed expression as she teased. "It was only when she appeared that I realized that even I'm fond of a peerless beauty who looks down on the world." Initially, Su Zimo's heart was heavy. However, when he saw Ji Yaoxue smile, the sorrow of parting in his heart seemed to fade a little. Ji Yaoxue reached out and patted Su Zimo on the shoulder gently. "Alright, don't be like this. It's not like we're parting forever. When you reach the upper world, you have to cultivate well. If you have the chance, come back and visit me and your other old friends." Su Zimo was silent. If he really reached the upper world, it would be almost impossible for him to descend again. The human emperor had ascended for countless years. Even with his cultivation, he almost died when he forced himself to descend to the lower world. If Su Zimo wanted to surpass the human emperor, he did not know how long it would take. The lifespan of a void reversion was only 5,000 years. At that time, even if he possessed the strength of a lower world, things would probably remain the same, but people would change. Furthermore, everything in the upper world was unknown, and he did not know what dangers there would be. Su Zimo knew in his heart that there was a high chance that this farewell between the two of them would be eternal. "Yaoxue." Su Zimo lowered his head and opened his mouth softly, as if he wanted to say something. Ji Yaoxue pursed her lips and looked at Su Zimo quietly. A hint of anticipation flashed through the depths of her eyes. Su Zimo was silent for a long time before he sighed internally. "I'm leaving. Take care." "You too," Ji Yaoxue said softly. Su Zimo took a deep breath of air and turned to leave without hesitation. Before long, he disappeared from the skies above the Great Zhou Imperial Palace. Ji Yaoxue stood on the spot and merely looked in the direction where Su Zimo left. She could no longer suppress the sadness and reluctance in her heart, and her vision gradually blurred. Someone is waiting for him in the upper world. Isn't it the same in the lower world? Right then, a voice sounded from behind Ji Yaoxue. Ji Yaoxue looked flustered as she wiped away the tears at the corners of her eyes hurriedly, as if she was afraid that someone would see through her as she turned back. Not far away, a young girl in a pink dress stood tall. After all these years, Demoness Ji did not seem to have grown up and still looked like a young girl. However, she exuded an irresistible charm from head to toe. "Yin'er, what are you talking about?" Ji Yaoxue asked. Demoness Ji replied, Sister, I know you the best. Even though you don't seem to mind, you can't bear to part with him. Ji Yaoshua remained silent. After a long time, she said softly, So what if I can't bear to part with him? He's going to ascend to the upper world, and I'm afraid I won't be able to see him again in the future. Yener, when are you going to ascend for your tribulation? Ji Yaoshua changed the topic and asked suddenly, I'm not an emperor yet. It's still early. Demoness Ji smiled and walked to Ji Yaoshua's side. Holding the latter's arm, she smiled. I can accompany you for many more years, unlike that heartless person. Oh you. Ji Yaoshua smiled and reached out to tap Demoness Ji's forehead gently. Sister, you don't have to be sad. Demoness Ji continued. I'll bring you to watch his tribulation in a few days' time. At that time, he'll definitely be struck terribly by the heavenly tribulation, and his soul might even dissipate. I'll take it as venting for you. Ji Yaoshua was shocked and asked hurriedly, Is the tribulation that dangerous? At the mention of that, Demoness Ji turned serious and retracted her smile. Indeed, the tribulation is extremely dangerous, and there's a high chance of death. In the ancient books of the fiend sects, there are many records of failed tribulations. Actually, for the past few years, many people in Tianhuang mainland could have chosen to transcend the tribulation. However, no one dared to take the risk. This time round, all the living beings of the 10,000 races know that Wu Huang will definitely choose to transcend the tribulation and ascend. Therefore, many experts are waiting to watch Wu Huang's tribulation so that they can gain some experience. Book reading website. Chapter 1775. Cultivation was a heaven-defying act, and every step was difficult. Prior to this, although there was immense danger in breaking through each major cultivation realm, it was difficult to call it a tribulation. The divine power tribulation would only descend when one entered the Mahayana realm. However, compared to the heavenly tribulation, the divine power tribulation paled in comparison. The heavenly tribulation was the most difficult hurdle in a minor kiliacosm. If one could survive it, they would be able to ascend to the upper world and transcend the tribulation to become an immortal. If they could not, there was only a single outcome. Their souls would dissipate. If one wanted to cultivate in a heaven-defying manner, they would have to endure the baptism of the heavenly tribulation. In Tianhuang mainland, as long as a cultivator cultivated to the perfected Mahayana realm, they could choose to transcend the tribulation, even if they did not comprehend a peerless divine power to become an emperor. In the ancient era, the ancestral master of Enigma Palace, Fairy Ling Long, transcended the tribulation and ascended without comprehending a peerless divine power. When a cultivator cultivated to the perfected Mahayana realm, all they had to do was release their spirit consciousness to strike the barrier of the minor kiliacosm, and they would attract the heavenly tribulation. Since the primordial era, there were very few cultivators who dared to trigger the heavenly tribulation at the perfected Mahayana realm. That was because the heavenly tribulation was way too dangerous. Many emperors could not survive the heavenly tribulation. Su Zimo had once witnessed Fairy Ling Long's tribulation in Enigma Palace, and she experienced immense danger as well. If not for Fairy Ling Long's incredible foresight, unparalleled deduction, and extremely high attainments in array formations, she would not have been able to make it through. Most importantly, one could only rely on their own strength to transcend the tribulation. If others were to help, they would implicate that person and cause many variables to occur during the tribulation. Those were all precious experiences left behind by people who transcended tribulations in the ancient era. However, no matter how precious those experiences were, they could not compare to the fact that many experts could witness a person's tribulation personally. It could be said that Wu Huang's tribulation was the center of attention. Many experts in Tianhuang mainland knew that Wu Huang would definitely transcend the tribulation. However, no one knew how Wu Huang would choose to transcend the tribulation since he had 3 true bodies. If I were Wu Huang, I would choose to transcend the tribulation with one of my true bodies as a test first. I'll be able to see what happens with the other 2 true bodies. That's right. Even if he fails to transcend the tribulation, he still has two true bodies. Perhaps these two true bodies will be able to come up with a way to resolve this. During this period of time, the experts of the myriad races had been discussing Wu Huang's tribulation, and they all had different opinions. This day, a voice suddenly sounded and spread to every corner of Tianhuang mainland. I'm Araki Takeshi, and I'll be undergoing my tribulation in the East Sea in 10 days. Everyone please come and watch. Planet Tianhuang was shaken. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, countless figures soared into the sky from all over the Heavenly Emperor continent, speeding towards the East Sea. Some of the figures had lower cultivation realms. They were only at the Dharma characteristic realm, or the conjoint body realm. They were not like the Mahayana patriarch, who could casually tear through the void and descend on the East Ocean. Therefore, these cultivators immediately set off for the Eastern Sea. Although the Dharma characteristic and conjoint body realms were still extremely far away from the tribulation transcendence realm, no one wanted to miss this opportunity. Which true body do you think Wu Huang will use to transcend the tribulation first? I'm guessing the Dragon Phoenix true body. After all, the Dragon Phoenix is a taboo. There's a higher chance of him transcending the tribulation, and he might be able to deal with some unforeseen circumstances. I'm guessing it's Qinglian true body. After all, it's an utmost treasure of the universe. For the past 10 days, a large number of cultivators gathered near the East Sea. Apart from some cultivators, there were also experts of the myriad races who gathered and discussed fervently. Among them, there were many familiar faces. Monkey Linghu, Qing Qing, Night Spirit, Little Fox and the Golden Lion were naturally among them. Nianqi rushed over from the mainland of God as well, and stood beside Momo. In front of these old friends, Nianqi did not put on any airs like Shenhuang. Kitsune and Kuan-Peng had arrived as well. Princess Yufei, Shura and Extreme Fire were in the crowd as well. Lin Xuanji, Ming Zhen, Little Fatty, Shi Jian and the others stood together. The emperors of the human race, and the various races tore through the void, and descended on the East Sea as well. In the blink of an eye, 10 days were up. All of a sudden, 3 cracks appeared in the sky above the East Sea and 3 figures with powerful auras walked out. Su Zimo's 3 true bodies descended at the same time. The 3 true bodies were far away from each other. They stood separately with calm expressions, and looked up at the firmaments at the same time. Everyone's gazes were focused on Su Zimo's 3 true bodies nervously. Suddenly, Lin Xuanji frowned and asked softly, "Old man, did Brother Su say which true body he's going to transcend the tribulation with first?" He didn't say. The storyteller old man had a grim expression as well. By the looks of it, there's a high chance that Wu Huang is going to transcend the tribulation with 2 true bodies at the same time. All of a sudden, Su Zimo's 3 true bodies burst forth with terrifying spirit consciousnesses at the same time, and soared into the skies. They tore through the clouds and struck the barrier of the heaven wasteland aristocratic family. Psst! The crowd was shocked and in an uproar. How dare Wu Huang? Wu Huang is too conceited. What if? How bold of Wu Huang to transcend the tribulation with 3 true bodies at the same time. Instantly, a wave of commotion broke out in the crowd and everyone was shocked. Even the storyteller old man's heart skipped a beat as he thought to himself, "This is a little reckless." Amidst the discussions of the crowd, the sky above the East Sea was filled with dark clouds that were pitch black like ink in the blink of an eye. 3 gigantic and thick clouds hovered above the heads of the 3 true bodies. Rumble! Boom! Above the East Sea, violent winds howled and lightning flashed within the black clouds. The 3 black clouds blotted out the skies and emitted a vast divine might, causing all the living beings of the myriad races to tremble in fear. The experts of the myriad races had long dodged far away. They stood on the mainland and looked at the East Sea, not daring to approach for fear of being affected by the heavenly tribulation. Everyone could see clearly that among the 3 black clouds, the cloud above Wu Dao's true body was clearly larger. As for the clouds above the Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian's true body, there was not much difference. The 3 black clouds rotated slowly and gradually turned into a gigantic vortex. Faint red lightning arcs began to flash in the clouds and condense towards the center of the vortex, accumulating terrifying power. The crowd was shocked when they saw the red lightning. It's actually red lightning. Do you think that the heavenly tribulation is an ordinary lightning tribulation? The destructive power of the heavenly tribulation has long undergone a qualitative change. Ordinary lightning was colorless or white. However, the current heavenly tribulation was red. The heavenly tribulation was about to descend. In the center of the black cloud vortex, a blazing red light shone and refracted for thousands of kilometers, illuminating the mountains and rivers. The entire world seemed to be covered in a blood-red color. Snap! Almost at the same time, a red heavenly lightning descended from the center of the three black clouds and struck towards Su Zimo's three true bodies. The Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian's true body stood with their heads held high. Their gazes were like torches as they looked at the descending heavenly tribulation without using any means to defend against it. What is Wu Huang doing? Why isn't he releasing his dharmic treasures or divine powers to defend against the heavenly tribulation? Could it be that Wu Huang wants to resist the power of the heavenly tribulation with his body? The crowd was shocked. In the blink of an eye, two red heavenly tribulations descended on the Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian's true body. The two true bodies were different in red heavenly lightning coiled around them, crackling. The two true bodies took the heavenly tribulation head-on and were safe and sound. On the other side, Wu Dao's true body looked at the descending heavenly tribulation and was even more domineering. He reached out and grabbed the heavenly tribulation, squeezing it forcefully. Boom! The heavenly tribulation exploded in the palm of Wu Dao's true body. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 1776. Su Zimo's three true bodies transcended the tribulations at the same time. Against the impact of the heavenly tribulation, the Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian true body chose to withstand the first bolt of heavenly tribulation with their bodies to sense the power within. As for Wu Dao's true body, he was even stronger and took the initiative to crush the heavenly tribulation. Only by truly transcending the tribulation could one understand the mysteries within. Apart from the powerful power of thunder, there was also a mysterious power within the heavenly tribulation. It was that power that caused the thunder in the black clouds to transform into a terrifying heavenly tribulation. At that moment, the Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian true body had withstood the baptism of the first bolt of heavenly tribulation, and their bodies flickered with electric arcs. The power of thunder in the heavenly tribulation gradually dissipated, and the remaining mysterious power seeped into the bodies of the two true bodies through their skin. That mysterious power was also changing the two true bodies. It's heaven-earth essence qi. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. A few years ago, when Daiyu descended, she mentioned some things about the upper world to him. Among them, there was the mystery of heaven-earth essence qi. After integrating with heaven-earth essence qi, small divine powers could transform and evolve into an even more terrifying power that could defeat Su Zimo's peerless divine powers. The reason why the thunder transformed into a heavenly tribulation now was definitely because it had integrated with heaven-earth essence qi as well. At the same time, Su Zimo had an epiphany. Although the heavenly tribulation was dangerous, it was a threshold that cultivators of the lower world had to cross. In the lesser kiliacosm, one could only come into contact with heaven-earth essence qi after the heavenly tribulation to cleanse one's flesh and essence spirit and transform once more. Choking, Chi-Chi novel. That way, cultivators of the lower world would be able to adapt to the environment of the upper world upon entering. Only cultivators who had undergone the heavenly tribulation could absorb heaven-earth essence qi in the upper world to cultivate. Wu Dao's true body crushed the heavenly tribulation, and the thunder dissipated in his palm. However, the heaven-earth essence qi contained within surged into the body of Wu Dao's true body and cleansed his flesh and blood. Wu Dao's main body closed his eyes and felt the subtle changes in his body. Just now that red heavenly tribulation is descending. Even though I'm so far away from it, I can still feel my heart palpitating. A ruler sighed softly. Who would have thought that such a terrifying heavenly tribulation would be nothing to Wu Huang? How could it be so simple? There are 9 lightning bolts, each more ferocious than the last. This is just the beginning. In fact, if there was only one thunderbolt, many rulers since ancient times would have been able to withstand it with all their trump cards, methods, and magic weapons. Nonetheless, most of the rulers who failed to transcend the heavenly tribulation fell in the later few heavenly tribulations. Most of the rulers lasted until the end and exhausted their trump cards. Naturally, they could not withstand the impact of the heavenly disaster and were struck until their souls were scattered. Many rulers were unwilling to transcend the tribulation because they wanted to comprehend as many peerless divine abilities as possible. This was because one more peerless divine ability meant that they could resist one more lightning tribulation. Above the East Sea, the dark clouds were lower and thicker. Blazing red lightning flashed and interweaved in the dark clouds, converging towards the center of the vortex. Snap! A dark red heavenly tribulation descended from the skies and smashed towards Su Zimo's 3 true bodies. The color of the heavenly tribulation was much darker than just now, and the power it emitted was even more terrifying. The Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian true body still did not move, and continued to receive the baptism of the heavenly tribulation with their physical bodies. Not only was there heaven and earth essence qi in the heavenly tribulation, there was also a powerful power of thunder. This baptism made the flesh of the 2 true bodies even stronger. To begin with, lightning contained life force and the essence of heaven and earth. For Su Zimo, all of that was extremely nourishing. Of course, no one else could imitate this method of tribulation transcendence. Wu Dao's main body was still domineering. Against the descending heavenly tribulation, he punched in reverse and shattered the dark red heavenly tribulation. Under countless gazes, the heavenly tribulation descended again and again. The color darkened dark red, blood red scarlet. The power of the heavenly tribulation became increasingly terrifying as well. Even the many emperors watching from afar felt their hearts skip a beat. The 2 true bodies were still motionless and endured the baptism of the heavenly tribulation. Not only were they not injured, the auras in their bodies became stronger instead. Wu Dao's main body's method of tribulation transcendence was even more violent and direct. Initially, he still stood in midair and raised his hand to resist the heavenly tribulation. However, during the final 7th, 8th and 9th tribulations, Wu Dao's main body rose against the momentum and charged towards the heavenly tribulation. Bang! 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 The 9th heavenly tribulation had just descended when Wu Dao's main body had already arrived beneath the black clouds. Raising his hand, he punched towards the lightning vortex in the center of the black clouds and shouted, "Break!" Boom! This stretch of lightning cloud layer was actually blasted apart by the martial Dao true body's punch, scattering everywhere. Wu Dao's main body stood beneath the firmaments like a god, unparalleled in the world. In less than an hour, all 9 heavenly tribulations were transcended. Su Zimo's 3 true bodies were safe and sound. To think that Wu Huang would be able to transcend the most dangerous 8th and 9th tribulations so easily. This method of tribulation transcendence is truly unprecedented. The living beings of the myriad races lamented. After the tribulation, Su Zimo's 3 true bodies did not leave, and no phenomenon descended from the firmaments either. According to the ancient records, after a successful tribulation, a milky white beam of light would descend and envelop the cultivator, guiding them to the upper realm. However, after the 9 heavenly tribulations ended, the light emitted from the firmaments became even more terrifying instead, as though a catastrophe was about to descend. What's going on? Didn't Wu Huang succeed in transcending the tribulation? The living beings of the myriad races became restless. Could it be? Lin Xuanji's heart skipped a beat as he turned to look at the old storyteller with a questioning expression. The old storyteller nodded with a grim expression. In that case, the legend of the heavenly tribulations is true. What legend? The various sovereigns were curious as they asked. Regarding the heavenly tribulations, not only did the other major sects, even Enigma Palace did not have any accurate records, and only had some legends. The old storyteller said, "Legend has it that there are 9 heavenly tribulations. We all know that. 9 heavenly tribulations, right?" An emperor continued. The old storyteller shook his head. The 9 does not refer to the 9 heavenly tribulations, but the 9 heavenly tribulations. What? The emperors were shocked. Longran asked, "You're saying that we have to experience 9 such heavenly tribulations?" The old storyteller nodded before shaking his head. Normally, as far as we know, the 9 heavenly tribulations we saw earlier on can only be considered as the first heavenly tribulation, also known as the 19 heavenly tribulations. However, if any monster incarnate is born in the world and attracts the jealousy of the heavens, there's a chance that it will attract the second heavenly tribulation. The second heavenly tribulation still has 9 heavenly tribulations. That's the 29 heavenly tribulations. The human emperor of all ages once attracted the 39 heavenly tribulations. Not many people in Enigma Palace knew about this, let alone others. The old storyteller paused for a moment before saying slowly, "Legend has it that the limit of the lower realm is the 49 heavenly tribulations. To date, it has never appeared in Tianhuang mainland." End of chapter. Chapter 1777. Although the 9 thunder tribulations ended, the dark clouds in the firmaments did not disperse completely. They continued to hover above the heads of Su Zimo's 3 true bodies. They were dark and heavy. No one knew what terrifying power was being nurtured within them. Before long, the dark clouds surged and changed. In the blink of an eye, 3 thick clouds formed above the heads of Su Zimo's 3 true bodies once more. The clouds were even scarier than just now, as though ink could drip from them. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the clouds with a devouring killing intent that seemed like it could devour and tear everything apart. The black clouds spun once more, and the endless power of thunder in the clouds began to condense towards the center of the vortex, causing the lightning to blaze even more intensely. This time round, it was no longer a scarlet thunder tribulation, but an orange-yellow one. Streaks of lightning shone in midair and burst forth with a resplendent golden light that was bedazzling. This was a thunder tribulation that had completely exceeded the expectations of many experts. There was even an orange-yellow power of thunder in this world. In the center of the black cloud vortex, it was as though a golden sun was being nurtured with countless bolts of lightning. The 29 heavenly tribulations had arrived. All of a sudden, a blazing golden thunder tribulation burst forth from the center of the 3 black cloud vortexes, and countless lightning arcs intertwined. The thunder tribulation was like a towering ancient tree that descended from the heavens and smashed towards Su Zimo's 3 true bodies. The Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian true body still did not release any divine powers or secret skills. Neither did they summon any dermic treasures, and were prepared to take on the 29 heavenly tribulations with their bodies. Wu Dao's true body had a calm expression. Just like just now, he took the initiative to attack the thunder tribulation. Boom! The golden thunder tribulation struck the 2 true bodies with a deafening sound. An enormous and terrifying force slammed into the 2 true bodies, sending them flying and almost falling from the sky. A commotion broke out in the crowd. Su Zimo's 2 true bodies were unharmed against the final heavenly tribulation of the 19 heavenly tribulations, and did not move at all. Who would have thought that the first tribulation of the 29 heavenly tribulations would send Su Zimo's 2 true bodies flying? On the other side, Wu Dao's main body was still as domineering as before. Without using any tricks, he directly smashed apart the golden lightning tribulation with a single punch. The heaven and earth yuan qi contained in the thunder tribulation gradually merged into Wu Dao's body. Wu Dao's original body's heart stirred. He used Wu Dao's great furnace to smelt it. As he felt the power of the thunder tribulation, his eyes gradually lit up, as if he had comprehended something. Cough cough. Su Zimo's 2 true bodies slowly stood up and gasped. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body was a taboo, and Qinglian's true body was a treasure of heaven and earth, there was still a huge gap between them and Wu Dao's true body. The powerful power of thunder and lightning intertwined within the bodies of the 2 true bodies, bringing with it a destructive aura. Under the first lightning tribulation, the two true bodies suffered some damage. However, the recovery capabilities of the two true bodies were strong. With their blood qi surging, such injuries were healed in the blink of an eye. There was no fear in Su Zimo's eyes. Instead, there was a hint of excitement. The power of the second heavenly tribulation was clearly much stronger than the first. This also meant that the heaven and earth yuan qi produced in the second heavenly tribulation was more purer and richer. Dangers were accompanied by opportunities. The more benefits Su Zimo could obtain in this tribulation, the faster he could adapt to the upper world and gain a foothold after ascending. Boom! The second lightning tribulation descended and did not give the two true bodies a chance to catch their breaths. Splash! Two vibrations sounded from the bodies of the two true bodies as their blood qi rumbled, and the sound of tsunamis surged. Su Zimo did not dare to be careless, and channeled his blood qi to take the thunder tribulation head-on. Bang! 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 The thunder tribulation descended continuously and struck Su Zimo's three true bodies wildly, as though it would not stop until it destroyed them. The power of the second heavenly tribulation became even more terrifying towards the end. Initially, the thunder tribulation that descended was only as thick as an ancient tree. In the end, the thunder tribulation that descended was like a divine pillar that could be hugged by more than 10 people. It shone with a golden light and surged with lightning, drowning Su Zimo's two true bodies completely. Wu Dao's true body was still domineering. With his powerful physique, he rose against the momentum and shattered the thunderclouds above his head once more. Based on this trend, there's almost no suspense for Su Zimo's third true body to ascend. The old storyteller nodded slightly. The other experts nodded as well. Up till now, it was unknown if the Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian's true body could successfully transcend the tribulation. A long time later, the lightning gradually dissipated, revealing the figures of the Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian's true body. The two true bodies were in a wretched state after being struck by the 29 heavenly tribulations. Their clothes were tattered, and they coughed continuously with green smoke rising from their 7 orifices. However, the vitality of the two true bodies was still exuberant, and their eyes were still bright. Under the baptism of the 29 heavenly tribulations, the two true bodies seemed to have undergone a transformation. Their flesh was flawless, their bones were tough, and their organs shone with a crystalline glow. Their auras became even more unfathomable. Right now, the two true bodies were equivalent to being baptized by the heaven and earth essence qi of the upper realm, and naturally underwent a rebirth. Rumble! Boom! Before the two true bodies could rest, a dull and powerful sound of thunder sounded from the firmaments once more. The 39 heavenly tribulations are here. The old storyteller murmured with a grim expression. Back then, the eternal human emperor ascended after experiencing the 39 heavenly tribulations. Good timing. Su Zimo burst out laughing in a maniacal manner. Many experts looked at Su Zimo as though they were looking at a monster. Actually, they did not know that the heaven and earth essence qi was nurtured in the heavenly tribulations. The 39 heavenly tribulations were clearly stronger than the 29 heavenly tribulations. Although it was more dangerous, it also meant that the heaven and earth essence qi in the 39 heavenly tribulations was purer and richer. If he could survive it, the improvement of Su Zimo would be even more obvious. Above the firmaments, 3 thunderclouds condensed rapidly. This time round, the color of the heavenly tribulations in the black clouds changed once more, turning from gold to green. Green heavenly tribulations. The black clouds spun and gathered as countless green thunderbolts condensed in the center, as though they were condensing into a river that surged and was bedazzling. Boom! The heavenly tribulations descended from the 3 thunderclouds. This time round, there were no light beams or thunderbolts. All the thunderbolts formed a gigantic waterfall that poured down like the Milky Way and surged towards Su Zimo's 3 true bodies. Pust! The sovereigns gasped in astonishment and gasped in shock. The 39 heavenly tribulations were so turbulent that they were even more majestic than the previous 2 heavenly tribulations combined. How could such power be defended against by humans? 3 heads 6 arms. Qinglian's true body released a peerless divine power and roared into the skies. Each of her 6 palms held a Dharma treasure and charged towards the lightning waterfall. Roar! The dragon phoenix true body let out a roar as well, and flames burned on its body. The flames of the dragon phoenix emitted a scorching temperature, as though they wanted to incinerate everything. Against the current. This time round, the 2 true bodies no longer held back and released all their methods. The expression of Wu Dao's true body turned grim, as well as he channeled his blood qi slowly. The lightning waterfall was way too terrifying. If he was careless, he would be washed away without a corpse. Even his body could not withstand it. Book guest residence reading website. Chapter 1778. The lightning waterfall descended in a bedazzling manner, with electric arcs flashing and thunder rumbling. The dragon phoenix true body and Qinglian true body released divine powers, one after another, and summoned countless Dharma treasures and secret skills to fight against it. Bang! 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 Each time they collided, there would be a violent tremor. The lightning waterfall shattered, and the remaining pure heaven-earth essence qi surged into the bodies of the dragon phoenix true body and Qinglian true body, fusing into every inch of their flesh. The 2 true bodies were transforming rapidly, and their auras were rising continuously. As for the lightning waterfall of the 39 heavenly tribulations, it became increasingly ferocious and violent. After being shattered once, it could condense again in the blink of an eye and descend from the skies once more, like a galaxy descending from the 9 heavens. It was extremely spectacular. Against the 39 heavenly tribulations, the dragon phoenix true body and Qinglian true body were almost forced to their limits. On the other side, Wu Dao's true body was forced to circulate his blood qi to fight against the 39 heavenly tribulations. The only one who could still stand against the 39 heavenly tribulations was Wu Dao's true body. The dragon phoenix true body and Qinglian true body were knocked down by the lightning waterfall several times, and were covered in wounds and dripping with blood. At the last lightning tribulation, the green lotus true body with 3 heads and 6 arms had 2 of its heads and 4 of its arms shattered by the lightning waterfall. Right in front of everyone, the 2 true bodies fell time and time again. They stood up again and again, bathed in lightning with torrential auras. Finally, the 39 heavenly tribulations dissipated. The dragon phoenix true body and Qinglian true body were almost at their limits as well. Panting heavily, they circulated their blood qi and consumed a large number of elixirs to recover their injuries. The 39 heavenly tribulations were still unable to pose a threat to Wu Dao's true body. After receiving the 39 heavenly tribulations, the clothes of Wu Dao's true body were not damaged at all. Wu Dao's true body closed his eyes slightly, as though he was sensing something. The storyteller looked up at the firmaments with a grim expression. Although the 39 heavenly tribulations were over, the thunderclouds in the skies did not dissipate, and were still circling above the heads of Su Zimo's 3 true bodies. Could it be that Wu Huang is going to attract the 49 heavenly tribulations? The old storyteller frowned and was worried. One had to know that the eternal human emperor had only attracted the 3 and 9 heavenly tribulation and ascended to the upper realm. The 3rd heavenly tribulation was already so terrifying, so how powerful would the 4th heavenly tribulation be? Su Zimo's dragon phoenix true body and Qinglian's true body had already reached their limits after withstanding the 39 heavenly tribulations. They had already unleashed all their unique divine abilities. Now, if the 4 and 9 heavenly tribulation descended, it would definitely be a devastating blow to the 2 true bodies. Rumble. Right when the storyteller was feeling worried, the thunderclouds in the sky condensed once more. The color of the tribulation lightning changed again. The green lightning tribulation turned into blue lightning tribulation. But this time, the thunderclouds above the heads of the 3 true bodies were no longer a waterfall, but a vast sea of thunder. The thunder was like a tide, shattering the void and emitting an endless pressure. Su Zimo looked up. At this moment his spiritual sense was constantly warning him. He sensed a destructive aura from the blazing sea of lightning above his head. The 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation had descended. How are we going to resist it? The 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation means that we have to withstand the impact of 36 bolts of lightning. Who can survive it? How is this a heavenly tribulation? It's simply trying to destroy Wu Huang. Many emperors wanted to watch Wu Huang's tribulation transcendence to gain some experience. But now, when they saw that, the emperors who were initially hesitant became even more fearful. Even though they were watching from afar, they felt despair. Su Zimo took a deep breath of air and looked at the sea of lightning above his head with a burning gaze. There was no fear in his eyes. Retreat. Cultivation was a heaven-defying act to begin with. If one did not have the courage to press forward, how could they reach the peak? Even the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation was not much of a threat to Wu Dao's true body. For Su Zimo, the most important thing right now was how his Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian's true body were going to survive the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. Boom! The sound of thunder suddenly sounded deafening. Even the experts watching from afar felt their hearts skip a beat. The sound of thunder contained the most righteous and vast power that could crush all evil. The moment the thunder sounded, Su Zimo had a new understanding of the sound domain secret skill, Thunderclap Kill, in his heart. However, he was currently transcending the tribulation and did not have time to think. Above the firmaments, the blue ocean poured down and drowned the 3 true bodies instantly. What was nurtured in the blue ocean was not seawater, but a dazzling lightning tribulation that seemed like it wanted to destroy all life. The lightning was blinding and filled the world. Many experts could no longer see Su Zimo's 3 true bodies. The 3 true bodies were engulfed by the thunder tide. Is this the end? Even Wu Huang's 3 true bodies couldn't survive the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. The living beings of the myriad races were shocked as they watched everything in a daze. All of a sudden, amidst the azure lightning tide, a purple halo burst forth. A figure appeared in the purple halo. It was Wu Dao's true body. The emperors were sharp and could tell clearly that there were actually 4 purple divine wheels behind Wu Dao's true body that emitted a powerful aura. Under the baptism of the heavenly tribulation, Wu Dao's true body broke through to the 4th level Fate Wheel realm and cultivated his 4th Fate Wheel. The thunder tide surged. Despite the protection of Wu Dao's true body and 4 Fate Wheels, he stood tall like a god of thunder. Roar! All of a sudden, from another thunder tide, a deep roar that was filled with authority sounded. In the blue tide of lightning, a massive figure gradually appeared. It was scarlet in color and had scales that were tightly connected to each other. It was burning with flames and had a pair of wings on its back. It had the head of a dragon, the tail of a phoenix, and sharp claws and fangs. The dragon phoenix true body had already transformed into its true form to fight against the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. Swoosh! The thunder tide surged. A streak of green tore through the tide and soared into the skies. The Qinglian true body could not defend against it and released its bloodline phenomenon. In the thunder tide, a creation Qinglian appeared that was bathed in thunder and shone brightly. Boom! The second thunder tide of the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation descended and was even more ferocious. The massive body of the dragon phoenix true body was almost drowned in the thunder tide as it let out a painful roar. Blood chi surged within its body and lifelike demon kings appeared one after another around it. The dragon phoenix true body was forced to release its bloodline phenomenon as well. That was its final trump card. The mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness was cultivated to perfection, and all 12 demon kings appeared. Of course, without Daiyu's backup plan, the 12 demon kings would not transform and recondense into Daiyu's form. Even so, the 12 demon kings were not to be underestimated, as they surrounded the dragon phoenix true body and defended against the impact of the thunder tide. The Qinglian creation shook violently against the impact of the second thunder tide, and its lotus platform drooped. It was almost drowned in the thunder tide. Boom! Before the second thunder tide stopped, the third one had already arrived. It was even more terrifying and earth-shattering. Chapter 1779. The thunderbolt was shocking and surged like a tidal wave, howling as it wanted to devour everything and crush all life. Cracks appeared on the 12 Demon King phenomenons of the Dragon Phoenix true body, and were on the verge of collapse when the third thunder tide descended. The situation on the other side of Qinglian's true body was even more dangerous. The creation Qinglian phenomenon could no longer defend against it as well. Against the scouring of the thunder tide, the leaves withered and lotus petals fell one after another. They turned into nothingness amidst the surge of the thunder tide. Boom! The fourth thunder tide arrived. Poof! 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 The 12 demon kings around the Dragon Phoenix true body dissipated instantly against the impact of the fourth thunder tide, and were drowned in the sea of blue thunder. On the other side, the creation Qinglian phenomenon collapsed as well. Su Zimo's figure reappeared, and faced the scouring of the thunder tide directly. The 19th heavenly tribulation was neither painful nor itchy for the two true bodies, and they could withstand it with their physical bodies. But now, this was the fourth heavenly tribulation. Their strength had increased several times, and they were on a completely different level. The two true bodies were exposed to the fourth thunder tide of the fourth heavenly tribulation, and instantly felt a bone-deep pain. The Dragon Phoenix true body reverted to his true form, and his skin was protected by countless tough scales that were invulnerable to weapons, fire, and water. However, against the scouring of the azure thunder tide, blood began to seep out of the Dragon Phoenix true body's body. Endless power of the thunder tribulation surged into the Dragon Phoenix true body's stamina and destroyed his life force. The Qinglian true body was even more miserable. In terms of physical strength, the Qinglian true body was still a level weaker than the Dragon Phoenix true body. Under the scouring of the fourth thunder tide, the hair of the Qinglian true body was disheveled, and her skin was charred black from the electricity. Blood splattered everywhere, and no one knew how much pain and damage she was enduring. Thankfully, the recovery capabilities of the Qinglian true body were shocking. Her life force was endless, and she was reborn from the destruction, recovering her injuries furiously. Boom! The fifth thunder tide descended. It was even more turbulent and terrifying with a terrifying might. The Dragon Phoenix true body could barely stand upright. The scarlet scales on his body fell off one after another under the scouring of the thunder tide, and were stained with blood. Without the protection of the scales, the flesh of the Dragon Phoenix true body was completely exposed to the thunder, and was mangled by the thunder tribulation. However, the Dragon Phoenix true body was still trying his best to grit his teeth and perseverance. His eyes were filled with determination. This was a tribulation, but also an opportunity. As long as he could survive it, he would undergo a huge transformation. Only by being tempered by such a powerful heavenly tribulation could he have a better foundation and establish himself in the upper realm. The green lotus true body was covered in wounds from the lightning tribulation. Its skin was like cracked tree bark, falling off in large patches. The flesh and blood of the green lotus true body was scorched black under the scouring of the thunder tide, and thick smoke billowed. His Qinglian's true body was severely injured, but he did not show any signs of defeat or fear. Instead, he roared into the skies, and his essence spirit burst forth with a powerful spirit consciousness on the creation lotus platform. The creation lotus platform spun continuously, emitting wisps of life force that nourished the flesh of Qinglian's true body. Heavens! This is only the fifth thunder tribulation of the 49 heavenly tribulations, and it's already so powerful. What kind of terrifying power will the following thunder tribulations unleash? Not to mention this terrifying thunder tide, even a strand of lightning in this thunder tide is enough to turn us into ashes. A ruler muttered to himself with a shocked expression. I'm afraid Wu Huang's two true bodies won't be able to make it through. Another ruler sighed. Many experts, including the storyteller, could clearly see that Wu Huang had already reached his limit, and there were still 4 more thunder tides. Boom! As everyone thought about it, the 6th thunder tide descended. Bang! The Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian's true body were sent flying by the thunder tide, and large amounts of blood splattered from their bodies. The 2 true bodies bobbed in the thunder tide, and the bones in their bodies crackled. They were almost shattered by the thunder tide. Qinglian's true body coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. His face was pale as he recovered his injuries frantically. Boom! The seventh thunder tide arrived. Poof! The dragon phoenix true body shuddered and spat out a large mouthful of blood. Against the impact of the seventh thunder tide, his organs were severely injured, and his life force was almost destroyed. Qinglian's true body was in an even more miserable state. Her flesh was washed clean by the terrifying thunder tide, leaving only a jade-green humanoid skeleton that floated in the thunder tide. The bones of Qinglian's true body were all made from Qinglian's stem back then. They emitted specks of light and were crystal clear like jade. She's not dead yet? The emperors were dumbfounded. The storyteller's gaze focused slightly as he saw an essence spirit that shone with divine light in the jade-green skull. Under the baptism of the thunder tide, it became increasingly condensed. Wu Huang was still persevering. Boom! The eighth thunder tide swept over, creating torrential waves. The wings of the dragon phoenix true body were broken, and more than half of his bones were shattered. His flesh and blood began to fall in the thunder tide, and his life force was gradually draining as well. He could not hold on any longer. Qinglian's true body was in an even more miserable state. Her skeleton was scattered by the thunder tide, and only hovered around the creation lotus platform, under the control of Qinglian's essence spirit. If one's body was destroyed in the thunder tide, there was no chance of rebirth from a single drop of blood. The life force of all flesh and blood would be destroyed by the thunder tide. Furthermore, the essence spirits of the two true bodies could not be protected against the thunder tide. The skull of Qinglian's essence spirit had already been shattered by the thunder tide, and only the creation lotus platform was left with a resplendent glow, protecting the essence spirit and holding on with all its might. Everyone watched intently and had long forgotten to breathe. Boom! The ninth thunder tide descended. The bones and organs of the dragon phoenix true body shattered, and its life force drained. It could not withstand the baptism of the ninth thunder tide at all. Swash! A bronze square tripod that was 10 feet tall flew out from the glabella of the dragon phoenix true body and welcomed the thunder tide in the skies. Boom! The bronze square tripod collided with the thunder tide and let out a deafening bang. The thunder tide dissipated and transformed into countless lightning arcs that descended from the firmaments and surrounded the dragon phoenix true body. Roar! The dragon phoenix true body reared its head and roared into the skies, standing up from the thunder tide. The most terrifying power of the ninth thunder tide had already been withstood by the bronze square tripod. The remaining lightning was not enough to pose a threat to the dragon phoenix true body. The dragon phoenix true body was invigorated and condensed its blood chi once more. Countless bolts of lightning tore through the world, circling around it like thousands of divine dragons. Although the dragon phoenix true body looked miserable, it managed to survive with the help of the bronze square tripod. However, it was different for Qinglian's true body. Qinglian's true body sent out all her dharma treasures. The other dharma treasures turned into ashes instantly in the thunder tribulation. Although the human emperor's seal was fine, it was dimmed by the thunder tide and drowned in it. Those dharma treasures could not defend against the ninth thunder tribulation at all. Right in front of everyone, Qinglian's true body was drowned by the ninth thunder tide instantly. Her essence spirit, flesh and bones were turned into ashes without a corpse left. 2K Reading Network. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.